Chapter 510. Seeing Zhou Xuanji explode with such a powerful aura, the surrounding experts were all shocked. This kid is only at Universe Heaven Tier 2, but he already has such an aura. It should be his sword. It's definitely a treasure. Everyone, be careful. There's still a third otherworld child of destiny. It's best if they appear together today and capture all of them in one go. Haha, he is indeed a genius. Unfortunately, he will die in our hands. Hearing their words, Zhou Xuanji remained expressionless. Wang Ho recovered from his injuries, and his aura exploded. The two sides did not immediately start fighting. Almost at the same time, the two of them turned their heads to look at Emperor Azure. Emperor Tsong lifted his left foot and stepped on the wooden railing. He looked at them disdainfully and said, "Where's your companion? Come out together. I'll let you die a quick death." Arrogant. Universe Heaven Level 12 cultivation was enough for him to look down on Zhou Xuanji and Lu Qiyue. Zhou Xuanji snorted coldly. "There's no point in talking so much. Let's fight." Boom! He leaped into the air, his legs causing the entire arena to collapse. The ground was shattered, and countless buildings collapsed. Facing Zhou Xuanji, who was charging at him ferociously, Emperor Tsong smiled with disdain. He roared fiercely downwards. Roar! Ghosts and gods howled. Mountains and rivers shook, and terrifying roars reverberated between heaven and earth. Zhou Xuanji was stunned by the roar, but fortunately, he came back to his senses in time. He held the 9-moon execution sword in his hand and slashed out. A long spear appeared in Emperor Azure's right hand. The edge of the spear was so wide that it looked like it was formed from two swords. He held the gun with one hand and stabbed it down. The sword Qi came head-on and sent him flying. The pavilion turned into ashes. Zhou Xuanji turned around and wildly slashed out, and berserk sword Qi shot towards the other Universe Heaven experts. These experts were all generals of the Fengxian God Dynasty. They retreated to different places and cast their divine skills, raising up light screens in an attempt to block the sword Qi. At the same time, the Imperial City was in chaos. The cultivators were fleeing in all directions, and the commoners were also fleeing far away from the battlefield. Feng Yuxiu stood on the roof and looked into the distance. She frowned slightly. Someone really came to save us. She muttered to herself in surprise. The person who came was a Universe Heaven Level 2 cultivator. Her evaluation of the Center God Province was even lower. From the looks of it, her death tribulation did not come from the Center God Province. Boom, boom, boom. The generals of the Fengxian God Dynasty were gradually pushed back. They opened their eyes wide and looked at Zhou Xuanji in disbelief. Why was this kid's magic power so strong? Each wave of sword Qi was stronger than the one before. Even if it was because of that sword, his magic power should not have been squandered like this. Zhou Xuanji tightly frowned. Under such attacks, he was still unable to break through these generals' divine ability defenses. The situation was not good. He immediately used the Emperor's Way Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha, merging his physical body into it. The Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha was 300,000 feet tall, standing majestically in the Imperial City. 1,000 arms grew out of its back, each holding a sword. They were all in the sword form of the 9-moon execution sword, and 9 divine moons hung high behind its head. Majestic, holy, countless people in the Imperial City were dumbfounded. What is this? Buddha? Zhou Xuanji had completely fused with the Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha. At the same time, he activated world internalization and slashed madly. Wang Ho also jumped onto his shoulder, feeling excited. This kid had become stronger. He was very curious. How did Zhou Xuanji break through to Universe Heaven Level 2? The more the Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha fought, the more frenzied it became. It forcefully broke through the divine ability barriers of the generals. All the legendary swords circled around the Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha's head, making it look like the Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha was wearing a silver helmet. Boom, boom, boom. The boundless Imperial City was ravaged by the Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha. Dust billowed, and the streets cracked. Emperor Song levitated in the air and did not attack. He observed Zhou Xuanji quietly. To be more precise, he was observing the nine-moon execution sword. That's right. It's the divine moon. Could it be the heavenly saint's doing? He refined the divine moon into a supreme treasure. Emperor Song mumbled to himself, and his eyes became excited. He must get this sword. The thousand-hand sword Buddha was like a divine mountain that created the world. Everything in the imperial city seemed insignificant before it. More and more powerful cultivators joined in, but Zhou Xuanji had no fear. He activated world internalization secretly, but he looked like he was possessed. He slashed and slashed madly, squandering his celestial energy. To prevent the imperial city from being razed to the ground, most of the generals chose to fight head-on, which caused their magic energy to be absorbed. Although they were shocked, they could no longer care so much. Soon, Zhou Xuanji's enemies grew to 100 universe heaven cultivators, and his momentum was being suppressed. Wang Ho stood on the thousand-hand sword Buddha's shoulder and cast his divine ability occasionally, but it was a pity that it was useless. The thousand-hand sword Buddha began spinning suddenly. 1,000 swords swung, and a violent gale swept up the sea of clouds into a vortex. But it was useless. One of the muscular generals grew to 100,000 meters tall and clashed with the thousand-hand sword Buddha. The thousand-hand sword Buddha was sent flying. The other powerful cultivators continued to attack. All sorts of divine abilities and spells landed on the thousand-hand sword Buddha like a storm, shattering the thousand-hand sword Buddha. Even world reincarnation could not withstand it, and Zhou Xuanji fell to the ground. Ding, 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 all the legendary swords landed beside him. He quickly stood up and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His right hand, which was holding the nine-moon execution sword, trembled slightly. Zhou Xuanji looked up and saw 100 universe heaven cultivators surrounding him. Each of them was like a god, looking down at him. Wang Ho landed nearby and was injured as well. He clutched his shoulder and said with gritted teeth, "Brat, is that all you can do?" He was furious. If he knew this would happen, Zhou Xuanji would not have saved him. If both of them died here, the Center God province would be finished. It's not over yet, Zhou Xuanji said coldly. Hua, green flames enveloped his body, and the 9 divine moons radiated brilliantly. The disaster-releasing legendary sword's power was channeled into his body. Battle Path Flame Soul. Disaster-releasing legendary sword. With the support of the 2 powers, his celestial power grew tremendously. Even a powerful heavenly law, immortal constitution, could not withstand it. Still not enough. Zhou Xuanji activated World Overlord and activated the power of the world in the Abyss Pearl mainland. Seeking death. A white-haired old general roared furiously. He slashed down with his saber, and the saber flashed as though it was going to cut the world in half. A black saber that was thousands of meters long appeared out of nowhere and landed on Zhou Xuanji's body. Boom! The ruins under Zhou Xuanji's feet crumbled again, and he disappeared. Seeing this, Wang Tsong shook his head and mocked. You dare to barge in with such little strength. A Barbara province is nothing more than this. Just when he finished speaking, the black saber shattered into countless black stars and dissipated. The earth shook violently, and 9 bright moons rose into the sky. The 9 divine moons formed a circle, and Zhou Xuanji was in the center. His body was golden, and the surface of his body was covered in green flames. Heavenly lightning coiled around him. His aura reached its peak, and the space around him rippled. What is disaster releasing? Transcend all suffering. Zhou Xuanji cried out expressionlessly. The 9 divine moons merged into his heavenly law, immortal constitution. Chapter 511. After the 9 divine moons fused into his body, Zhou Xuanji fell into a mysterious state. All this while, he felt that the 9-moon execution sword contained boundless power. No matter how he activated it, he could not bring out the full power of this legendary sword. Just now, he activated the power of the divine moons with the Battle Path Flame Soul and broke through the barrier instantly. The power of the divine moons flowed into his body with unstoppable force. His consciousness fell into a state of dizziness. When everything returned to normal, he found himself in a vast starry sky. Countless stars floated in front of him. All of them were like moons, glowing faintly. Divine moons. Compared to the other stars, these divine moons were extremely eye-catching. They were radiating a divine radiance, like the stars surrounding the moon, holy and noble. Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes wide. There were so many divine moons in the universe. The supreme legendary sword system absorbed 9 mystic moons and created the 9-moon execution sword. At this moment, he saw a rainbow coming from the depths of the universe. It destroyed the divine moons directly, and the continuous explosions plunged the vast universe into daylight. Zhou Xuanji woke up suddenly and realized that he was levitating high up in the sky. Strands of green flames flickered in the white radiance, and the 9-moon execution sword in his hand seemed to have grown longer. Hundreds of universe heaven cultivators looked up at him with different expressions. Some were anxious, some were furious, some were fearful, and some were jealous. An unprecedented power boiled in Zhou Xuanji's body. He looked around him and realized that all the legendary swords levitated around him, glowing with the same white radiance. It was just like the group of divine moons he saw before, standing proudly under the sky. In the royal capital, countless people looked at him in disbelief. Feng Yuxiu was also shocked. The divine moon in the sky. All spells are silent. She mumbled to herself. Emperor Tsang, who had been eyeing Zhou Xuanji, could no longer sit still. With a loud cry, he charged at Zhou Xuanji with his spear. In the blink of an eye, he traveled 10,000 meters and came up to Zhou Xuanji. With the spear in his right hand, he twisted his wrist and stabbed at Zhou Xuanji. Boom! A white radiance appeared and forcefully blocked the tip of his spear. Emperor Tsang was shocked, but he was a universe heaven level 12 cultivator after all. He used brute force to push Zhou Xuanji toward the horizon. Zhou Xuanji, however, had a strange expression. Under the white radiance of the divine moons, he felt that Emperor Tsang was not invincible. He stopped abruptly, and Emperor Azure was unable to advance any further. Sword Spirit, is the disaster-releasing divine sword really that powerful? Zhou Xuanji asked in his heart. The current 9-moon execution sword was completely different from the first time he had used it. Although he was excited, he was more confused. The Abyss Pearl mainland was formed from a divine moon. The sword master used the power of the world earlier, causing the Abyss Pearl mainland to resonate with the 9-moon execution sword. Now, you've become one with the Abyss Pearl mainland. The power you're using now doesn't just come from the 9-moon execution sword. The sword spirit's explanation stunned Zhou Xuanji. The Abyss Pearl mainland was formed by the divine moon? Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? At this moment, Emperor Tsang launched a torrential barrage of attacks. His spear was like a dragon, and lightning bolts struck Zhou Xuanji's body. But they were all blocked by the divine moon's white radiance and did not cause any damage to Zhou Xuanji. Everyone in the imperial city was dumbfounded. That was the divine martial marquis, especially those generals. They could see through Zhou Xuanji's cultivation. A Hunyuan Heaven level 12 couldn't do anything to a Hunyuan Heaven level 2? Had they gone mad, or had the heavenly Tao gone mad? Wang He was also dumbfounded, unable to comprehend what was happening. How can it be? Emperor Tsang gnashed his teeth in rage. His murderous intent materialized in his eyes. Zhou Xuanji was still thinking about the divine moon. No matter how he attacked, he could not feel anything. Because of the divine moon, the Abyss Pearl mainland was protecting him. No matter how powerful Universe Heaven Level 12 was, could he be more powerful than the Abyss Pearl mainland? The Abyss Pearl mainland had nurtured many powerful cultivators. Its fate was much more abundant than Emperor Tsang's. Zhou Xuanji still could not understand. Even if it was because of the divine moon, the Abyss Pearl mainland was willing to support him and not the native creatures? Was it like helping a brother kill his own child? At this moment, the 9 souls began discussing. The power of the divine moon. I see. The Abyss Pearl mainland is filled with spiritual chi and fate because it was the divine moon. The world's power is helping this brat. The Abyss Pearl mainland must have been forced to become a continent. It wanted to sense this brat's divine moon power, so it wanted to use him to take revenge on the world. Hearing their words, Zhou Xuanji immediately understood. The divine moon was high up in the depths of the universe. Now that it had become the host of billions of living creatures, it naturally resisted. Zhou Xuanji stopped thinking and turned to look at Emperor Tsang. Are you done? Qin Wentian coldly asked. Maybe it was because of the energy from heaven and earth. His heart had changed as well. In his eyes, Emperor Azure was no different from a clown. Hearing this, Emperor Tsang's face twisted as he gritted his teeth. Who the hell are you? Why do you have a mystic moon sword? A long time ago, the divine moon was taken by the saints. He did not understand how Zhou Xuanji obtained this sword. Who am I? Zhou Xuanji replied calmly. I am the world. A sword's soul condensed behind him out of thin air. With a flash of sword light, blood splattered. Emperor Azure's head flew into the air. Silence. The mouths of the primordial heaven experts in the distance were wide open. They didn't even see that sword move clearly. A massive amount of magic energy entered Zhou Xuanji's body. The world internalization was hidden in the sword's soul, which absorbed most of Emperor Azure's magic energy with a single slash. But because of his special state, Zhou Xuanji did not feel much. Wang Tsang's head stabilized. He looked at Zhou Xuanji in fear and cried out, "You!" Zhou Xuanji was astonished. His head was separated from his body, and he could still speak. Xiao! 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 The 3 sword souls slashed out, turning Emperor Azure's body into ashes. His soul fled in panic. It was so fast that Zhou Xuanji could not even react in time. He did not mind and said, Marquis, what are you waiting for? Do you want to die with them? Having heard him, Marquis came back to his senses and quickly flew toward Zhou Xuanji. At this moment, sword shadows that were radiating white light appeared in the sky above the royal capital. Primordial chaos sword shadow. A billion sword shadows swept across the sky. Nearly 10 million people in the city sensed the aura of death. On the stone stairs of the royal palace, Emperor Godfeng Xian looked at the sky full of sword shadows and was stunned. When he saw that Emperor Azure could not do anything to Zhou Xuanji, he was already dumbfounded. Why is it like this? Great Emperor Dao Court, you deceived this emperor. Emperor Godfeng Xian's body trembled as he mumbled to himself. He immediately disappeared from his spot. Block this divine ability. The white-haired old general roared. He channeled his magic energy and prepared to defend against the primordial chaos sword shadow. Zhou Xuanji turned around and walked toward Marquis. The sky full of primordial chaos sword shadow descended as though the sky was collapsing. The wrath of the heavens and earth annihilated all life. A horrifying beam of light with a vast diameter descended from the sky and drowned the prosperous royal capital. Chapter 512. Rumble. The primordial chaos sword shadow descended like a heavenly punishment. The huge imperial city of the Fengxian God dynasty was annihilated in an instant. Countless cultivators tried to escape, but they were quickly swept by the expanding white light, and their bodies and souls were destroyed. The earth shook violently, and the white pillar of light expanded in all directions, sweeping out in all directions. Wherever it passed, the mountains shattered, the rivers evaporated, the grasslands became barren, and the cliffs were filled up. Wang Ho stood blankly in the air, staring blankly at the approaching white light. In the face of such a mighty force, he couldn't even muster the slightest will to resist. Zhou Xuanji came before him in a single step and grabbed his shoulder with his right hand, and the two of them left. Wang Ho opened his eyes again and found himself in a forest. Zhou Xuanji, who had turned into a figure of light, walked to the side and sat down. All of the divine swords disappeared and returned to the supreme storage. The white light on his body also dissipated. After the power of the world dissipated, Zhou Xuanji's aura suddenly exploded. The primordial chaos sword shadow was activated with the world internalization technique. Together with Emperor Azure's magic energy, the amount of magic energy Zhou Xuanji absorbed in this battle far exceeded what his body could handle. His body was bleeding profusely, and he was so frightened that he hurriedly took out the nine-moon execution sword and used the power of the divine moon to suppress the rampaging magic power in his body. Rumble, the heavenly tribulation suddenly descended. Wang He was dumbfounded. Was he going to break through again? How could this be? Was this guy's breakthrough speed reasonable? He slapped himself. It hurt, but it was real. Zhou Xuanji began to break through. He felt very complicated. He broke through just like that. It wasn't easy. The power of the mystic moon combined with world internalization was simply brutal. Wouldn't he be able to act tyrannically and do whatever he wanted? The surrounding trees were swept up by the strong wind and flew into the sky. Not long after, the forest no longer existed. Thunderclouds rolled, and the heavenly tribulation was about to appear. A ray of white light rose from Zhou Xuanji's body, and the tribulation dispersed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Then, he broke through to Universe Heaven Level 3. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Brother Abyssal Pearl, I need the heavenly tribulation. He also wanted to use the lightning to strengthen his thunderclap sword. Wang He fell to his knees. He held his head in his hands, his face full of disbelief and incomprehension. The heavenly tribulation dispersed. The heavenly Tao gave way for him. Mother asterisk Kerr, Marquis cursed in his heart. He sat paralyzed on the ground and stared blankly at Zhou Xuanji. 1,000 miles away, Feng Yuxiu stood on the cliff and looked into the distance. Blood seeped out from the corner of her mouth, making her look incomparably beautiful. How did he obtain Mystic Moon's approval? So the Abyss Pearl mainland is also a divine moon? No wonder. No wonder. She smiled miserably and suddenly understood what her master meant. Her death tribulation had appeared. To be more precise, the death tribulation of the Abyss Pearl mainland had appeared. Even the Abyss Pearl mainland was helping the enemy. What chance did they have of victory? She took a deep breath and walked in the air. She was going to talk to Zhou Xuanji. Since Zhou Xuanji could save Marquis, it meant that he was not an absolutely evil person. He had benevolence and righteousness in his heart. Above the sea of clouds, Ichio opened his eyes. His expression was complicated as he mumbled, Zhou Xuanji, I underestimated you. Not only did he possess a sword created by the divine moon, but he was also able to awaken the divine moon's consciousness in the Abyss Pearl mainland. Could this child be a clone of Sage Daojing? At this moment, he felt quite fearful of Zhou Xuanji. This child's background was definitely not simple. At the same time, he was looking forward to it. Perhaps Zhou Xuanji could really pull all the saints down from their pedestals. He shook his head and continued to cultivate. Zhou Xuanji's breakthrough lasted for 3 days. In the end, he did not break through to Universe Heaven Level 4, but his celestial energy grew tremendously. He was like a completely different person compared to before. It felt great. He stood up and said, let's go and uproot the other 2 god empires first. With the 9-moon execution sword in his hand, he was extremely confident. With the help of the Abyss Pearl mainland, he did not need to wait at all. He could just start the battle. Marquis was stunned and quickly caught up with him. The two headed toward the Lukhang God Empire, which was the closest to the Fengxian God Empire. Along the way, Marquis could not help but ask, you are so powerful because of your sword? Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, that's right. Where did you get it from? I was born with it. It was born with my soul. Can you stop bragging? You don't believe me. Should I believe you? Yes. No matter how Marquis asked, Zhou Xuanji refused to let go. What a joke. The Supreme Legendary Sword System was his greatest trump card. How could he casually reveal it? At the same time, news of Zhou Xuanji destroying the Fengxian God dynasty's royal capital all by himself spread across the Abyss Pearl mainland. It was said that dozens of primordial heaven experts and tens of millions of cultivators died in this battle. The divine martial Marquis Wang Tsong was killed to the point where only his soul was left. Once the news spread, the world was shocked. Is he really the son of destiny? It was fate, too strong. Even the three children of destiny from the Abyss Pearl mainland were far inferior to him. Unprecedented terror engulfed the Abyss Pearl mainland. 4 days later, the two entered the Lukang God Empire. As soon as he entered the Divine Dynasty, 10 powerful auras came from the Divine Dynasty's land. Their cultivation bases were all above Universe Heaven Tier 8. Zhou Xuanji smirked and directly unleashed World Overlord, using the power of the heavens and the earth. The 9-moon execution sword once again resonated with the Abyss Pearl mainland, and the Divine Moon once again connected. A powerful power descended upon Zhou Xuanji's body, and he once again turned into a person of light. He was incredibly dazzling, and it was difficult to discern his true appearance. "Monster!" a muscular man roared. Before he could finish speaking, Zhou Xuanji activated the primordial chaos sword shadow. Tens of thousands of sword shadows appeared, the tips of the swords pointing straight ahead. Boom! The 10 Universe Heaven cultivators could not dodge in time and were engulfed by the tens of thousands of sword shadows. Not even their souls were left behind. The ground was pressed into a canyon that stretched all the way to the horizon. The mountains shook, and a violent gale blew recklessly. Zhou Xuanji walked in the air with 9 sword souls behind his back. The talent of an unparalleled sword emperor shook the heavens and the earth. Wang Ho followed behind him, sweating profusely. Too powerful. Killing Universe Heaven cultivators was like slaughtering chickens and dogs. "Wait, can you let me say something?" A woman's voice came from behind. Feng Yuxiu flew over and blocked Zhou Xuanji's path. Her cold and beautiful face was covered in a gloomy expression. Zhou Xuanji stopped and waited for her to speak. She gritted her teeth and said, "You're so powerful. Why are you willing to be a chess piece and slaughter the world? The heavenly saints let you participate in the battle because they don't want to be involved in the karma. Or else, with their cultivation, they can annihilate a continent with just a flick of their fingers." Zhou Xuanji asked, "Then what do you want me to do? Turn around and challenge the heavenly saints?" What a joke. How could he not know the logic behind this woman's words? He did not want to slaughter a continent either. It was just that he was not powerful enough and had no other choice. Feng Yuxiu frowned, and a look of struggle flashed in her eyes. "I have a treasure that I can pass to you," she said with a deep voice, "to help you avoid the threat of the heavenly saints. I only ask that you give up this battle." Zhou Xuanji raised his sword and said, "Since you are a woman, if you don't disappear within 3 breaths, then die." Chapter 5:13. Facing Zhou Xuanji's domineering attitude, Feng Yuxiu was both shocked and furious. She did not act recklessly but quickly left. Zhou Xuanji did not take it to heart and continued ahead with Marquis. "Lukang God Empire. I'm going to destroy it. It's useless no matter who comes. TSK, TSK. You really don't know how to be gentle to such a beauty." Marquis mocked. His eyes were filled with admiration when he looked at Zhou Xuanji. This brat did not lose himself because of his power, nor was he immersed in love. He had admired a junior before, but that brat only knew about love and was useless. Zhou Xuanji said calmly, "I already have a wife. No one can stop me from protecting her." The two moved ahead quickly. Lukang God Empire was already in chaos. Zhou Xuanji's primordial chaos sword shadow was so powerful that most regions in Lukang God Empire could hear it. "The otherworldly devil is here. Is there really no one who can stop him? It's over. It's over. Let's run." "Run? Where can we run to? Our fate is connected to the Abyss Pearl mainland. Even if we escape from the Abyss Pearl mainland, if we lose the war, we will still die." Every city was in chaos. Of course, countless brave warriors still charged toward Zhou Xuanji. Even though they knew that they could not defeat him, they were willing to fly into the flames of death like moths. Zhou Xuanji remained in the Divine Moon state. His body was filled with white radiance like a god, and no one could see his expression clearly. The sword souls behind him continued to attack, killing wave after wave of enemies. He did his best, which was the greatest mercy he could show to his enemies. He did not let these brave warriors feel pain. In this war between two worlds, there was no justice or evil to speak of. But after killing so many people, his heart began to change. Looking at the world from the perspective of the heavenly law, what kind of perspective was that? All living beings were like the flowers and plants in the backyard. If they grew too much, they must be removed. Along the way, he finally saw the royal capital of Lukang God Empire. Countless people ran out from all the city gates. There were even many cultivators circling in the air to protect the civilians as they fled. Seeing the two of them, the cultivators were in despair. "Do you dare to tell me your name? Let this emperor know who killed me before I die." A voice that was filled with anger and murderous intention could be heard. Then, Emperor God Lukang flew out from the city. He wore a silver-white dragon robe and an emperor's crown on his head. He looked majestic and had a long sword in his hand. Evidently, he was prepared to fight to the death with Zhou Xuanji. "Zhou Xuanji." Zhou Xuanji replied softly. Right after he spoke, he activated the primordial chaos sword shadow. A billion sword shadows streaked across the sky, pointing at the earth. All living beings looked up, and all of them were filled with despair. Most of them collapsed to the ground and gave up on running. The primordial desolation sword shadows coverage area was too big. They couldn't escape at all. Emperor God Lukang sighed, and he seemed to have aged 10 years. Bang! The primordial chaos sword shadow descended like a heavenly might, striking the earth. The imperial city turned into ashes, and the ground broke into pieces like a piece of paper. Emperor God Lukang's body was drowned by the strong light very quickly, and he died. He would follow his divine dynasty through life and death. Zhou Xuanji turned around and used his body to protect Marquis. The two of them were engulfed by the powerful light. In the face of such mighty power, nothing could withstand it. The Lukang divine dynasty was finished. Even if most of the areas were not destroyed, they would still be fragmented. Zhou Xuanji sat on the peak of the mountain and regulated the violent celestial energy in his body. Marquis stood nearby and sighed in amazement. This guy is growing more powerful as he fights. If I knew this, I would have learned the world Buddha art back then. My revered teacher lied to me and said that this was an evil energy technique, and I would be doomed eternally. Thousands of words turned into a sigh in the end. If this continued, Zhou Xuanji would surpass him in terms of cultivation stage soon. Zhou Xuanji's celestial energy grew tremendously, and the heavenly tribulation came soon. And then it dissipated. He successfully broke through to Universe Heaven Level 4. Marquis looked at him in silence with a bitter look. After the breakthrough, Zhou Xuanji got up and said, "Let's go. Next, we will deal with the Tianhe God dynasty." Once the three divine dynasties were destroyed, the Abyss Pearl mainland's fate would disperse significantly. After all, the three divine dynasties suppressed the land and controlled countless living beings. The two of them headed toward the Tianhe God dynasty straight away. Along the way, they tried to find out about Great Emperor Wuang. This guy had been missing for a few years. Could he be dead? But with Great Emperor Wuang's shrewdness, it would be difficult for him to die. This day, they were stopped by someone. "Zhou Xuanji, although I don't understand why you are so powerful, don't blame me for attacking you today." This person was wearing a violet gold armor and looked majestic. He held an extremely exaggerated heavenly halberd in his hand and stared at Zhou Xuanji coldly with a stern look in his eyes. Zhou Xuanji, who was in the divine moon state, asked, "Oh, tell me your name." This person's aura was powerful, even more powerful than Emperor Song's. He might be someone extraordinary. "Xiangang," the man in the violet gold armor said with a deep voice, which shocked Marquis. Xiangang ranked 9th on the Abyss Pearl hero ranking. His cultivation was at Universe Heaven Level 15. With such cultivation, he would be invincible in the Center God province. Zhou Xuanji walked forward fearlessly. So what if he was at Universe Heaven level 15? At this moment, he controlled the Abyss Pearl mainland and the power of the Divine Moon. As long as he was in the Abyss Pearl mainland, he would be invincible unless the Heavenly Saint intervened. Shi Yingang raised his heavenly halberd, and billowing heavenly might descended. Thunderclouds gathered, and countless bolts of lightning landed on the halberd. The lightning flashed brilliantly. He turned into a war god that could pierce through the heavens and earth. He was extremely domineering. Zhou Xuanji activated the primordial chaos sword shadow. A billion sword shadows appeared behind him and pointed at Shi Yingang horizontally. They occupied half of the sky, and the white radiance made everything behind them lose its color. Seeing this, Shi Yangang's heart shuddered. Although he had heard about this divine ability of Zhou Xuanji's, the fear he felt when he saw it with his own eyes was the most real. A fourth-level universe heaven cultivator can erupt with such power. Even divine moon cultivators can't be this strong. Shi Yingang was covered in cold sweat and began to hesitate. He suddenly felt that his chance of winning was not high. But it was a pity that Zhou Xuanji did not give him time to hesitate. Boom! The primordial chaos sword shadow shot out. A billion sword shadows were activated with such a massive momentum that it felt like it was going to sink the Abyss Pearl mainland and shatter the sky. Shi Yingang swung his halberd in a hurry, but before he could blink, he was engulfed by the primordial chaos sword shadow. Marquis, who was hiding behind Zhou Xuanji, stretched his head out and gulped. Too powerful. It was as though no powerful cultivator was worth mentioning before Zhou Xuanji. The war between the two worlds should be in the bag. Soon, Shi Yangang's aura disappeared. Before he died, he did not even have the time to say a word. A long while later, the primordial chaos sword shadow disappeared and the ground shook. A long ravine that was wider than a river was formed, extending all the way to the horizon. As for Shi Yingang, not even a strand of hair was left. Chapter 514. The famous Shi Yingang, ranked 9th on the Abyss Pearl hero ranking, had fallen here. Marquis was no longer amazed. Instead, he smiled and said, "If this goes on, it won't be long before the war between the two worlds ends, right?" What he was most worried about was Zhou Xuanji's condition. If this brat's mystic moon state suddenly ended, what awaited them would be a nightmare. I'm not sure. Up until now, we haven't felt any karmic luck forging our bodies. Zhou Xuanji said, shaking his head. He had already killed so many enemies. Apart from his cultivation, where was his luck? If there was still no providence after the destruction of the 3 divine dynasties, he would have to question the rules of the war between the two worlds. Wang Ho nodded with a serious look on his face. Previously, he thought that the enemies he killed were too weak, so he didn't feel any luck. Now it seemed that there was something fishy about luck. He found it strange. Could killing enemies allow him to plunder luck? The two continued on their way to the Sky River God dynasty. The news of Shi Yangang's death quickly spread. During the previous battle, there were many cultivators watching from afar. They all heard Shi Yangang's domineering voice. After the primordial chaos sword shadow ended, Shi Yangang's voice disappeared. The answer was obvious. This time, the Abyss Pearl mainland was in a complete panic. Shi Yingang was ranked 9th on the Abyss Pearl hero ranking and had Universe Heaven level 15 cultivation. He had lived for over 1,000,000 years, and such a powerful cultivator died so quickly. Perhaps even the top cultivator on the Abyss Pearl hero ranking could not do anything to Zhou Xuanji. If they lost the war between the two realms, all living beings on the Abyss Pearl mainland would die. He couldn't even escape. They could only pray that the 3 children of destiny who were sent to the Center God province would act quickly. The Center God province was much more desolate than the Abyss Pearl mainland, so it shouldn't be too difficult for the 3 children of destiny. 1 month later, the Tianhe God dynasty was destroyed, and the Tianhe God Emperor gathered more than 200 Universe Heaven cultivators to encircle Zhou Xuanji. All of them died. Zhou Xuanji exploded out, slashing apart millions of kilometers of land with a single strike, causing countless casualties. The 3 divine dynasties collapsed. The fate that Zhou Xuanji had been waiting for finally arrived. At this moment, he was bathing in the qi of the heavenly Tao, enjoying the cleansing. Coupled with the magic power he had absorbed earlier, his cultivation level had skyrocketed. Wang Ho stood not far away and watched with envy. If he was given such a boundless amount of heavenly Tao luck, he would be able to make a breakthrough. Unfortunately, he didn't have a chance to make a move along the way. Zhou Xuanji was just too powerful. Of course, even if he attacked, it would be useless. Boom! Zhou Xuanji broke through to Universe Heaven Level 5, and his cultivation was still increasing. The boundless destiny strengthened his Emperor's might, which was not bad. After descending to the Abyss Pearl mainland, it had only been a little over 3 years, yet he had leaped from the first level of Universe Heaven to the 5th level. This was simply unbelievable. One could only say that the world Buddha art was truly tyrannical. How powerful was Gu Tianxia, the creator of this technique? He believed that Gu Tianxia was definitely more proficient in using the world Buddha art than him. After all, the world Buddha art had more than 3 levels. This breakthrough took 5 days. Zhou Xuanji's cultivation stopped at Universe Heaven Level 5 and did not break through to Level 6. Every time he advanced a level, the amount of magic power he needed would increase exponentially. With the mystic moon state, he didn't have much of a feeling towards his cultivation. Once he left the Abyss Pearl mainland, it would be very difficult for him to enter the divine moon state again. After all, the Center God province was not formed from the divine moon. After the breakthrough, they continued on their way. Zhou Xuanji set his sights on the Abyss Pearl mainland sanctum. Wang Ho had already turned into a follower. Since he had someone to rely on, he was happy to be idle. Along the way, he began to tell Zhou Xuanji about Sage Daojing's background. The 9 heavenly saints existed since the beginning of the heavenly law. Sage Daojing was not a being from the Center God province, but he had preached about the Tao everywhere in the Great Thousand World. After that, he created Still Thought Temple and allowed all living beings to come and seek enlightenment. They could come, but if they wanted to leave, they had to stay for a certain number of years, depending on their cultivation. There were even millions of years. Although Wang Ho respected Sage Daojing, he did not treat him as his revered teacher. Zhou Xuanji asked curiously, "What is Sage Daojing's rank among the 9 heavenly saints?" Ever since he knew that the saint positions were limited, he was curious about the 9 heavenly saints. One day, they would become enemies. Zhou Xuanji had long wanted to become the most powerful, so how could he stay below the heavenly saints? Wang Ho rolled his eyes at him and said, "How would I know? The heavenly saints never fight personally. They always choose their pawns like this, nurture them, and fight again to divide the benefits. At their cultivation stage, if they fought, the entire Great Thousand World might be destroyed." Wang Ho reminded him intently, "Don't fight with the heavenly saints, including Sage Daojing. Don't be fooled by their gentleness. If the heavenly saints entered the mortal realm, they would be like mortals and would be easy to get along with. But that was only their disguise. They had long abandoned their emotions and desires, so it was difficult for their mental states to fluctuate." Zhou Xuanji nodded. It seemed that Wang Ho had suffered losses before. Boom! A domineering figure shining with golden light descended from the sky and landed on the mountain peak in front of them. The impact caused the mountain walls to crack and the forest to sway in a violent gale. Zhou Xuanji and Wang Ho stopped and looked over. Within the billowing dust, a golden ape stood proudly. His violent aura dispersed the dust around him. He looked down at Zhou Xuanji and said, "You are Zhou Xuanji, right? How about becoming my disciple?" Zhou Xuanji and Wang Ho were stunned. They thought that he was an enemy, but they did not expect him to take him as a disciple. If he becomes an enemy, do you want him to give up on the Center God province? Wang Ho asked warily. At the same time, he was reminding Zhou Xuanji. The golden ape laughed with disdain. "If you become my disciple, I can help you destroy all living beings in the Abyss Pearl mainland. With a swing of my staff, I can sink the entire Abyss Pearl mainland." With this, Zhou Xuanji and Wang Ho's expressions changed. The Abyss Pearl mainland was not the mortal realm. To destroy it in one strike, even Universe Heaven cultivators would find it hard to do so. Zhou Xuanji asked with squinted eyes. Your cultivation has surpassed Universe Heaven? He could not see through the other party at all, and he could not help but wonder. What is this guy trying to do? Universe Heaven level 18. Do you think the Heavenly Saint is above that? You underestimate the power of a Heavenly Saint. I can tell you that I fear no one below the Heavenly Saint. I am more than enough to be your teacher, the Golden Ape said proudly. The Golden Ape said proudly. As soon as he finished speaking, a figure appeared beside him. It was Yi Qiuqian. He stared at the Golden Ape and said with a smile, General, I don't think this is appropriate. He is Sage Daojing's subordinate. The Golden Ape smiled and said, Sage Daojing is not here. Zhou Xuanji looked at them and asked, Why don't you introduce yourself? This is not how you take in a disciple. He suddenly remembered the old beggar. The old beggar took him in as a disciple, but did not even reveal his name. I am the Golden Saint God, the old ancestor of the Golden Saint Ape clan. The Golden Ape said with a smile. He sized Zhou Xuanji up, and the more he looked at him, the more satisfied he was. Zhou Xuanji looked at Wang Ho and asked him with his eyes. Wang Ho shook his head. He was only 100,000 years old. To the vast great thousand world, he was still very young. It was impossible for him to know everything. Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 515. I already have a master, and he's not weak either. If I take you as my master, I'm afraid there will be a lot of trouble. Zhou Xuanji looked at the Golden Saint God and said with a serious expression. The Golden Saint God said in disdain, As long as it's not a heavenly saint, nothing is troublesome to me. Yi Qiuqian shook his head and laughed, but he did not say anything. However, there was a strange look in his eyes, as if he was expecting something. Zhou Xuanji asked, Do you know Northern Nether Sword Devil Su Qing and Grandmaster Aoshi? The Golden Saint Deity replied, Su Qing wasn't bad in the past, but it's a pity that he's already crippled. Grandmaster Aoshi, second-rate trash. A look of disdain appeared on his face. So, Zhou Xuanji's revered teacher was like this. Zhou Xuanji continued, They are my senior apprentice brothers. Above them, there are a dozen more senior apprentice brothers. Can you defeat all of them? And my revered teacher. The Golden Saint God and Yi Qiuqian were both stunned. Su Qing and Grandmaster Aoshi were martial brothers? There were more than 10 senior brothers above them? Why hadn't they heard of it before? Judging from Zhou Xuanji's expression, he did not seem to be lying. If such a being really existed, it was not impossible to nurture a genius like Zhou Xuanji. No matter who it is, as long as they haven't become saints, I have no fear. The Golden Saint Deity waved his hand. His eyes became sharp as he asked, Are you willing or not? Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes and asked, What if I'm not willing? Boom. He immediately entered the mystic moon state, and the 9-moon execution sword appeared in his hand. His aura reached its peak. Golden Saint God and Yi Qiuqian stared at him. What a tyrannical power of the divine moon. No wonder you've been so popular recently. Yi Qiuqian chuckled as he looked down. No one knew what he was thinking. The Golden Saint Deity said in disdain, Not bad, to be able to obtain the power of heaven and earth of the Abyss Pearl mainland, but do you really think that you are very powerful? How vast is the great thousand world? The Abyss Pearl mainland is only the tip of the iceberg, while I possess power that surpasses the great thousand world. How can you compare to me? How pretentious! Zhou Xuanji's eyes were cold and sharp. He was ready to fight at any moment. At that moment, Yi Qiuqian pulled Jin Shengxin back and said, Now is the time of the war between the two worlds, and he is a chess piece. If you snatch his chess piece, you will be offending the heavenly saint. You can look for him after the war between the two worlds ends. Hearing this, the Golden Saint God's eyes flickered and he hesitated. Zhou Xuanji and Yi Qiuqian had an agreement. The two of them pretended that nothing had happened and did not make eye contact. Stinking brat, don't die. Just wait and be my disciple. The Golden Saint Deity snorted coldly, somewhat dissatisfied. He wanted to take Zhou Xuanji away immediately. Zhou Xuanji calmly asked, "Right now, I'm not strong enough to sweep through the Abyss Pearl mainland." The golden saint deity glared at him and said, "Do you think you are very strong? There's a little fellow in the Abyss Pearl mainland who is stronger than you. If he comes out, you better avoid him." With that, the golden saint god and Yi Qiuqian left. The two of them disappeared into thin air, leaving no trace of their aura. Wang Ho asked, "Should we stop for a while?" Zhou Xuanji was too sharp. If what the golden saint god said was true and that powerful existence was invited out, it would be troublesome. Zhou Xuanji muttered, "Let's continue." The more he fought, the stronger he would become. Waiting was not a good thing. Wang Ho was not stubborn. After all, he was riding on someone else's coattails. The two of them continued on their way to the Holy Land. There were 8 sacred grounds in the Abyss Pearl mainland, and each of them had countless disciples. The two of them flew toward the west first. The one guarding the west of the continent was the Dark Moon Valley. It had existed for more than 1,000,000 years. Within a radius of 10 million miles, there was no light all year round. 3 days later, Zhou Xuanji charged into the Dark Moon Valley in his divine moon state. He was like the sun in the darkness, extremely eye-catching. Countless cultivators gathered from all directions. Instead of panicking, they formed their own formations. Billowing thunderclouds parted. A stone stele that was tens of thousands of meters tall descended. Dozens of strange words were carved on it, which Zhou Xuanji could not understand. "Seems like they are prepared," Zhou Xuanji thought, and activated the primordial chaos sword shadow straight away. His basic cultivation had already grown tremendously. This time, he formed 2 billion sword shadows that levitated under the sea of clouds. All the cultivators looked up and were dumbfounded. They were all horrified. 2 billion sword shadows floated in the sky, each of them glowing brightly. Facing such a formation, who could remain calm? Even though they were prepared, they could not control their fear. "Zhou Xuanji, don't you dare!" An old voice rang out, and a gray-robed elder appeared out of thin air on top of the stone tablet. He slammed his palm onto the stone tablet, and countless sparks flowed along his palm and spread across the entire stone tablet. The cultivators from all directions formed their formations and began attacking Zhou Xuanji. Countless beams of light shot toward Zhou Xuanji from all directions, aiming to kill Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji commanded with his mind, and the primordial chaos sword shadow descended with unstoppable momentum. Boom! The entire ground was engulfed by a powerful radiance. The Dark Moon Valley's disciples formed their formations to defend, but they realized in horror that their formations could not block the primordial chaos sword shadow at all. Their formations shattered immediately, and they were turned into ashes. Both their bodies and souls were destroyed. The gray-robed old man's expression changed. He dodged instinctively, but he was still killed by the countless sword shadows. They knew that Zhou Xuanji was powerful, but they did not know that Zhou Xuanji had been growing stronger. Boom! 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 The powerful radiance blinded the world, but the explosions continued. One could imagine how tragic this battle was. A long while later, the ground turned into barren land, and the powerful radiance receded. The Dark Moon Valley no longer existed. All the disciples were gone. Only a stone stele was left standing alone. Powerful magic energy returned to Zhou Xuanji's body, but he did not care about it. Instead, he looked at the stone stele. "What's that?" He was curious. Out of caution, he slashed at it with the sword soul. Boom! The stone stele shook violently. Next, it began to crack. The cracks spread across the entire stele, and it shattered. Countless rocks rolled down. Zhou Xuanji was stunned. After the stone stele shattered, a mummy appeared. This mummy was a few thousand meters tall. It had no hair, and its skin and flesh were shriveled and red. Its arms were crossed on its chest, and its head was raised. Its mouth was open, but it had no eyeballs. Its eye sockets were facing the sky. Its ears were very long, like those of a bat. There were 4 wings on its back. Zhou Xuanji was even more curious. Why was there a corpse hidden in the stone steel of the Dark Moon Valley? What was the Dark Moon Valley trying to do by taking out the stone steel? Defend? Or did they want to use this mummy to counterattack? Zhou Xuanji took out the wind god's sword and threw it. The blade pierced through the throat of the four-winged mummy, but it did not react. Don't touch him, or else not only will the Abyss Pearl mainland be in danger, but you will also die. A woman's voice came. Feng Yuxiu appeared hundreds of meters away. Within the white radiance, Zhou Xuanji said with a frown, "You again?" This woman was following him. Feng Yuxiu's expression was unsightly. "I'm not trying to save the people of the Abyss Pearl mainland," she said. "It's just that this concerns my death tribulation, so I followed you. I did not expect the Dark Moon Valley to be so vicious." To win, they took him out. Chapter 516. What exactly is this thing? Can you just say it? Stop beating around the bush. Wang Ho could not help but urge her. He was about to die from anxiety when he heard Feng Yuxiu's words. Zhou Xuanji took out the ancient god sword and had the 9 souls recognize it. This is one of the ancient demon gods, demon god Tianwu. He possesses the terrifying strength to destroy the great 1,000 worlds. A long time ago, he was killed by the heavenly saint. His corpse was unable to dissipate, so he was suppressed in the void. Later on, he was discovered by the Dark Moon Valley's old ancestor. They were extremely daring and actually brought demon god Tianwu back to the Abyss Pearl mainland. Feng Yuxiu sighed. She wasn't sure how strong demon god Tianwu was, but it was definitely not something the Dark Moon Valley could control. Zhou Xuanji looked at demon god Tianwu and thought to himself. Lu Wuji sighed and said, "The legendary 10 great demon gods were the first batch of demons. They were peerlessly powerful and were of the same generation as several heavenly saints." Dao Master Xintian, who rarely spoke, said, "Take this demon god's body. This is a great fortune. It's best if you refine it into your avatar. Maybe you can take the method to prove your Dao through strength." There was some excitement in his voice. Zhou Xuanji was curious and asked in his heart, "What does it mean to prove one's Dao through strength?" He looked at the four-winged corpse. He didn't expect this thing to have such a powerful background. Heavenly saints are heavenly saints recognized by the heavenly ways, and there are only 9 of them. However, heavenly saints are not the only ones recognized by the heavenly ways. Using strength to prove one's Dao is to use magic power that surpasses that of heavenly saints to forcefully break through. Even the heavenly ways cannot stop you from proving your Dao. Once you succeed, no heavenly saint will be a match for you. Dao Lord Xintian replied. Not only was Zhou Xuanji shocked, but the other 8 souls were also shocked. Sovereign Xian asked curiously, "Who are you? Why do you know so much about the sainthood?" Emperor Zhao said excitedly, "Good, good, stinking brat, quickly take it away. When I revive in the future, I will follow you." Emperor Songhai sighed, "I used to think that I was the strongest, but now I realize that all of you are stronger than me." The other souls followed suit. Zhou Xuanji immediately flew over to demon god Tianwu's corpse and put it into the Tianxia map. Feng Yuxiu opened her beautiful eyes wide and said, "Why did you take it away? Be careful, it might bite you." Her master had once told her that if she encountered a demon god's body, she must stay far away from it. Otherwise, she would suffer the wrath of heaven. Zhou Xuanji said calmly, "If I take it away, won't the Abyss Pearl mainland be safe?" With that, he turned around and left. After destroying the Dark Moon Valley, once he got out of the Mystic Moon state, his cultivation would definitely skyrocket. He might even break through again. He had to quickly become stronger before the strongest expert of the Abyss Pearl mainland appeared. Feng Yuxiu followed behind. Wang Ho was surprised. Could it be that this woman had fallen in love with this guy? Zhou Xuanji turned around and slashed with his sword. Sword chi swept out. Feng Yuxiu's figure swayed, and she easily dodged it. Zhou Xuanji was quite surprised. This woman was quite capable, so she was pretending to be weak to devour him. "I won't help the Abyss Pearl mainland deal with you. Since you refuse to come to your senses and want to continue participating in the battle, I won't say anything more. I just want you to bring me along. My death tribulation might be related to you, and I want to investigate it. Otherwise, I won't be able to calm down. Feng Yuxiu said calmly. She glanced at Marquis and said, I've lived for millions of years, and I've already severed my emotions and desires. I only seek longevity in the great Tao. I'll keep my distance from the two of you. If there's anything you want to know about the Abyss Pearl mainland, you can ask me. Wang Ho faked a cough to hide his awkwardness. Zhou Xuanji thought for a while and agreed. He also wanted to learn more about the Abyss Pearl mainland. The three of them left one after another. News of the Dark Moon Valley's destruction spread. After the three god empires, another sanctum was also destroyed. The aura of defeat in the war between the two worlds drew closer and closer, making all living beings fearful. The remaining 7 sanctums began to communicate with each other, preparing to work together. From how things were going, Zhou Xuanji would definitely challenge the sanctums one by one. They had to work together, or else they would be defeated without a doubt. Zhou Xuanji landed on the grassy plains. After dispelling the divine moon status, he began to break through. In less than half a day, he forcefully broke through to Universe Heaven Level 6. There was no divine tribulation stopping him. Marquis kept his guard up against Feng Yuxiu. Fortunately, this woman did not do anything rash. What energy technique is he cultivating? With such great fortune, it seems that his teacher is not simple. Feng Yuxiu thought to herself curiously. At that moment, Zhou Xuanji got up and walked towards her. He was still holding the 9-moon execution sword, in case Feng Yuxiu suddenly attacked. Who was the most powerful among the native creatures of the Abyss Pearl mainland? Zhou Xuanji asked. After reaching Universe Heaven Level 6, he would become even more powerful after entering the Divine Moon mode. Feng Yuxiu replied, Zhao Gao's is the strongest. His cultivation has reached Universe Heaven Level 18, and he is the Abyss Pearl mainland's child of karmic luck. He is very talented, and he is not in the Abyss Pearl mainland. He will most likely return to reinforce the Abyss Pearl mainland soon. Zhao Gao's. Zhou Xuanji memorized the name in his heart. He did not ask much and continued to move forward. Universe Heaven 18 layer. This was the pinnacle of the Universe Heaven stage. It was no wonder that he was the strongest person on the continent. To prevent anything unexpected from happening, he had to become as strong as possible before Zhao Gao's returned. Would he be able to break through to the Universe Heaven stage level 10 if he annihilated the 8 great sacred grounds? A mountain peak appeared above the sea of clouds. Xiandoya and Malicious Buddha stood side by side. In front of them was a purple-robed young man who was meditating. He had a handsome face and a noble temperament. He was dressed luxuriously like a member of the royal family. Zhou Xuanji, right? My cultivation has already reached Universe Heaven Level 6. When Zhou Xuanji comes back, I will definitely be able to defeat him easily, Zhou Xuanji said. The purple-robed youth said calmly without opening his eyes. Malicious Buddha nodded and said, 3 years ago, Zhou Xuanji had just broken through to Universe Heaven Level 1. This boy has the strength to fight those with higher cultivation. Even though your cultivation is much higher than his, you still need to be cautious. The purple-robed young man opened his eyes and looked at Malicious Buddha with a burning gaze as he said, You mean that my talent is inferior to his? If I want to become a great emperor, I would definitely be a first-class great emperor. However, I'm pursuing a stronger path. Xiandoya loudly laughed, and Malicious Buddha also shook his head and laughed. They admired this boy's pride and did not want to discourage him. No matter what, Zhou Xuanji has been taken seriously by the Heavenly Saint and has many experts by his side. It's best if you can find an opportunity to fight him one-on-one. This boy's talent is peerless, and if you use his talent as a reason to challenge him, he will most likely agree, Xiandoya said in a low voice. Xiandoya muttered as he came up with a plan. The purple-robed young man slowly got up and coldly harumphed as he said, My target is not Zhou Xuanji, so there's no need for so many schemes. Compared to him, I want to defeat Zhao Gao's more. It's a pity that Zhao Gao's is too powerful. I need to spend a long time chasing after him. As such, I don't want to spend too much time on Zhou Xuanji. I'll leave everything to you. I'll just attack." Hearing this, malicious Buddha slightly raised his eyebrows and said, "Zhao Gao's is in existence at Universe Heaven level 18. Even if I face him, I have to be careful. Don't be too arrogant. If you're too stubborn, you'll break easily. Do you understand?" The purple-robed young man did not reply, but his gaze was resolute. Chapter 517. Zhou Xuanji had no way of knowing the situation in the Center God province, so he could not help but feel worried. As such, he traveled incredibly quickly. The next sacred ground was known as the Night-Gazing Forest, which was slightly stronger than the Dark Moon Valley. However, by the time the three of them arrived at the Night-Gazing Forest, there was already no trace of anyone in the forest. All the disciples had already evacuated. Wang Ho spat. "You actually fled? Are you even fit to be a holy land?" If a holy land were to relocate, its luck would definitely plummet. Zhou Xuanji scanned the place with his divine sense and found that there was not a single treasure left in the Night-Gazing Forest. How cunning. The 7 holy lands have probably joined forces. Her tone was calm, as if she was an outsider. She was indeed an outsider. If it wasn't for the fact that her master had told her that her death tribulation was coming, she wouldn't have come to the Abyss Pearl mainland. Zhou Xuanji asked, "Who is the most powerful in the sanctums?" "Only the strongest holy land could gather the other holy lands." Feng Yuxiu muttered, "It should be the One God Hall. They are the first sacred ground in the history of the Abyss Pearl mainland. Their ancestors surpassed Universe Heaven and ventured into the void. If you destroy one godly hall, there will be trouble in the future." Zhou Xuanji snorted in disdain. When he wanted to destroy the Abyss Pearl mainland, it meant that there would be endless trouble. Every time he thought of this, he felt nothing towards the Heavenly Saint. If the Heavenly Saint took action himself, how could the living dare to hold a grudge? Yet, he had to choose 3 children of destiny to compete. Wasn't this just creating conflict? However, by doing so, he was also giving everyone a chance of survival. "Take us to one shrine," Zhou Xuanji continued. Feng Yuxiu nodded and flew in another direction. Zhou Xuanji and Marquis followed closely behind. Along the way, Wang Ho kept asking Feng Yuxiu questions. They were all asking about the seniors of the Abyss Pearl mainland. Once the Abyss Pearl mainland was destroyed, many experts would descend upon the Center God province to seek revenge. Feng Yuxiu was annoyed by the questions. She snorted coldly and said, "After the war between the 2 worlds ends, the Heavenly Saint will erase the memories of the victors. As for the losers, anyone who can escape from this situation will be enlightened. How can they bear grudges like mortals?" It wasn't the first time that the Abyss Pearl mainland had experienced a war between 2 worlds. It was just that the living beings couldn't remember it. The Night-Gazing Forest was very far away from the One Godly Hall. It was equivalent to passing through the Abyss Pearl mainland. On the way, Zhou Xuanji welcomed his birthday. Analyze that the sword owner has reached 238 years old. Gotcha started. Ding. Congratulations. The sword owner has obtained Armageddon, Crimson Sun Sword, Disaster Release, Cultivation Absorbing Demon Seal, 2 Divine Swords. There is also a Disaster Releasing Divine Sword. Zhou Xuanji rejoiced in his heart. Next, information about the 2 legendary swords appeared before his eyes. Sword name, Crimson Sun Sword Grade. Armageddon description, a divine sword formed by the Crimson Sun. It can burn the world. Sword name, Cultivation Absorbing Demon Sealer Level. Disaster Relief description, a sword that specifically absorbs the cultivation of the demon race and seals off demonic chi. The more demonic chi it absorbs, the stronger the sword chi will be. One must be at least at Universe Heaven Realm Level 1 to use it. Zhou Xuanji's eyes brightened. Cultivation Absorbing Demonic Sealer counters demons? It could also absorb demonic energy and become stronger and stronger. Not bad at all. Zhou Xuanji liked swords that had the potential to grow, especially swords that could grow in battle. He didn't take it out to check. He had the 9-moon execution sword in his hands, so he didn't need the cultivation-absorbing demonic seal for the time being. Moreover, the cultivator-absorbing demon sealer was targeted at the devil race. The demonic cultivators of the Abyss Pearl mainland couldn't even withstand a single blow from him. He would use it against the demons in the future. Because Xian Xianghua was in the demon realm, he believed that one day he would be able to face the enemies of the demon race. After obtaining another disaster-releasing divine sword, Zhou Xuanji felt incredibly happy, and even Feng Yuxiu became much more pleasing to the eye. One God Palace was located at the summit of the Abyss Pearl, mainland's tallest mountain. Right now, the entire mountain was filled with people. There were humans, demons, dragons, and other races. All of them had taken human form and formed an army. There was also a massive army around the mountain. All of the creatures that could come here had the strength to take human form. The weak were not qualified to participate in battle, and they only needed to hide. The surrounding 10,000 kilometers were filled with an austere aura. When is Zhou Xuanji coming? Probably soon. He's been fighting nonstop. Could it be that his magic energy is limitless? How can he fight so frequently? This time, it's going to be a battle to the death. It's said that Zhou Xuanji has the title of Sword Emperor in the Center God Province and is acknowledged by heavenly law. How do you know? If he's the Sword Emperor acknowledged by heavenly law, no wonder he's so powerful. All the creatures and factions were discussing Zhou Xuanji. Previously, they might have been enemies, but now they would be fighting side by side. No hatred could compare to the survival of the Abyss Pearl mainland. In One God Palace, hundreds of universe heaven cultivators gathered here. The current palace lord, Li Yishan, sat on the highest seat. Every palace lord of One God Palace would receive the title of Yishan. Li Yishan's cultivation was at universe heaven level 17. No one in the palace could compare to him. He glanced at everyone and said, "Our Abyss Pearl mainland is the divine transformation of the divine moon. Zhou Xuanji has also received the divine moon's inheritance, so we are fighting against the Abyss Pearl mainland. I already have a countermeasure against the divine moon, which is our One God Palace's 10,000 divine will formation. 10,000 divine will formation." Everyone's expressions changed, and their expressions changed. A short man slammed the table and stood up. He pointed at Li Yishan and asked, "Do you want to become the center of the 10,000 divine will formation and fight to the death with Zhou Xuanji?" The others also had a strange expression. This formation would absorb the essence chi of those who entered and even hurt their foundations. Only one person could benefit from it. Li Yishan looked calm. A domineering aura exploded from him. "Among everyone here, other than me, who else can convince you? Who else can you trust? Remember, this is not a martial arts competition, nor is it a battle between two sects. If we lose this battle, we will all die. Not only us, but also all living beings in the world." His voice was powerful and overpowered the entire palace. Everyone fell into silence. At the same time, Zhou Xuanji and the other two were still on their way. Feng Yuxiu told Zhou Xuanji and Wang Ho about the 10,000 divine will formation, which shocked them. Such a formation existed in the world. However, if this formation was activated, all the disciples would be injured. It could not be used unless it was absolutely necessary. But to One God Palace, this was the last resort. Wang Ho looked at Zhou Xuanji and asked, "Which means to say you will fight against the combined power of all living beings in the world. Are you afraid?" Zhou Xuanji glanced at him and said condescendingly, "I'm afraid." Wang Ho curled his lip. This brat was getting more and more arrogant. He was looking forward to it. If this wave ended, the Center God Province would win. As long as it ended, he would no longer have to hide and could peacefully continue to comprehend the great Tao. "How far are we from One God Palace?" Wang Ho asked Feng Yuxiu, his tone filled with anticipation. Feng Yuxiu looked at Zhou Xuanji and said, "We're almost there. The 10,000 divine will formation has already been activated. Li Yishan's aura is even more powerful than when you were at Dark Moon Valley." Chapter 518. Really? Marquis asked nervously. Zhao Gao's hadn't even descended, but Li Yixin had already erupted. Feng Yuxiu answered, at least in terms of aura. She looked at Zhou Xuanji and really wanted to know what this brat was thinking. Zhou Xuanji smiled and asked, much more powerful than me? The divine will of 10,000 formation seemed to be pretty good. He was looking for a chance to get it. Although it's not like the difference between heaven and earth, at this level, this small difference can affect the outcome of the battle. Moreover, Li Yixin has lived longer than you, so his combat experience and divine powers are richer than yours. Feng Yuxiu said seriously. She wasn't biased. This was how she felt. Wang Ho frowned at that. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, you think that was my peak before? With that, he sped up and rushed forward. The nine-moon execution sword appeared in his hands. He immediately entered the mystic moon state, and his body shone with white light. Like a meteor, he shot towards one godly hall. At this moment, near the mountain where the one godly hall was located, all living beings had already made their preparations for battle. All living beings within 10,000 miles sat cross-legged on the ground. Their essence, energy, and soul turned into white smoke that rose into the sky and gathered on one person. That was Li Yixin. Li Yixin floated in the air, enjoying the essence, qi, and spirit of billions of living beings. His aura rose steadily. He looked at his hands with a fascinated look on his face. With this kind of strength, even if he faces Zhao Gao's, he should still be able to obtain victory, Li Yixin muttered to himself. His eyes were filled with fighting spirit. The array of divine will of 10,000 qi was still in operation, and he was also steadily getting stronger. He could already sense Zhou Xuanji's aura. He was very strong. However, he was no match for the current him. Boom! Zhou Xuanji flew over from the horizon, giving off a majestic aura. Seeing this, all living beings shuddered. They looked up at Zhou Xuanji. The white light flashed, and they could not see Zhou Xuanji's face at all. However, in such a situation, they felt even more respect towards Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji stopped 1,000 meters away from Li Yixin. Li Yixin stared at Zhou Xuanji and said, you're Zhou Xuanji? I didn't expect you to be able to perfectly withstand the power of the mystic moon. You are indeed worthy of the title of Sword Emperor. He did not have much hatred for Zhou Xuanji. In the War of the Two Realms, everyone was forced to do so. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, how about giving me the spell formation? I guarantee that your one divine hall's disciples will die painlessly. Li Yixin narrowed his eyes when he heard that. He laughed coldly and said, you really know how to joke. He immediately prepared for battle. Zhou Xuanji condensed the battle flame soul. Within the white light, strands of green flames coiled around it, and its aura grew explosively. Li Yixin's expression slightly changed. He had never thought that Zhou Xuanji could become stronger. He shouted loudly, all beings of the Abyss Pearl, today was a battle of life and death for all living beings in the world. Today, if we win, the world will win. If we lose, the world will lose. His voice resounded beneath the clouds, surging with passion, sonorous and forceful. Even Zhou Xuanji was somewhat influenced by him, let alone the people below. This guy really knows how to stir up people's hearts. Zhou Xuanji thought to himself, but did not care. Kill! Billions of creatures roared in unison, shouting themselves hoarse. They looked at Zhou Xuanji with bloodshot eyes, wanting to tear him to pieces. In the distance, Marquis was extremely nervous. He asked Feng Yuxiu, what are his chances of winning? Feng Yuxiu frowned and said, even though he used a divine ability to increase his cultivation, his chances of winning are still not high. As for the specifics, as she spoke, Zhou Xuanji suddenly moved. He held the nine-moon execution sword and leapt up, breaking through the sea of clouds and disappearing. Li Yixin looked up and could sense Zhou Xuanji's aura. He took out a five-edged whip and prepared to fight. Rumble! A massive explosion sounded out, shaking the heavens and earth and causing all living beings on the ground and mountains to feel incredibly uneasy. Li Yishan slightly frowned. He did not dodge because he could not dodge. Once he dodged, the creatures below would suffer a calamity. He gathered his magic energy and whipped out. This whip gave off a brilliant light, as if it was going to tear the sky apart. At that moment, Zhou Xuanji broke through the clouds and dove down. He gripped his sword with his right hand and pointed it downwards. The air around him exploded, shaking the space. It was as if a ray of divine light descended from the sky. World suppressing. This was a divine ability that Zhou Xuanji had obtained when he broke through to universe heaven, but he had not used it yet. He poured all of his divine moon energy into the 9-moon execution sword, and his aura reached an unprecedented peak. He was incredibly fast, unstoppable. He crushed the 5-edged whip's energy directly and charged toward Li Yishan. Li Yishan opened his eyes wide and instinctively swung his palm. The surging magic energy turned into a massive palm that was as big as a mountain and slammed toward Zhou Xuanji. Boom! The massive palm shattered, and white light burst out from Zhou Xuanji's body. The sword landed on Li Yishan's body and pressed him down to the ground. All beings who were forming the 10,000 divine will formation were dumbfounded. Before they could react, Zhou Xuanji pressed Li Yishan down to the ground. What followed was an earth-shattering sound. The white sword chi swept in all directions, and the ground rumbled. Countless living beings were turned into dust, and mountains crumbled. The scene was incredibly majestic. Marquis opened his mouth wide and could not believe his eyes. Feng Yuxiu was also stunned. Looking over, the entire ground was destroyed by Zhou Xuanji's sword chi. One sword suppressing the world, destroying all living beings. Feng Yuxiu raised her right hand and used magic energy to create a barrier of light, protecting Marquis. The sword chi flashed past their bodies, and they could not see anything. They were surrounded by sword chi. Feng Yuxiu's expression slightly changed, and she lightly gritted her teeth. A look of shock appeared on her beautiful face as she muttered, "What divine ability is this? How can it be so powerful?" Marquis was so scared that he almost peed his pants. His body trembled as he said, "Didn't you say that his chances of victory were not high?" Feng Yuxiu's expression was complicated as she said gloomily, "Li Yishan is already dead." She had miscalculated. Zhou Xuanji was too powerful. If it was her facing that sword strike, she would have died without a doubt. If it wasn't for the fact that they were quite far away, she would not have been able to block that sword chi, which was as boundless as heavenly might. Marquis was delighted. Li Yishan had fallen. Looking at the might of that sword strike, all living beings would most likely die. In other words, they were only a step away from victory in the war between two worlds. In the next second, his expression became one of shock. This was because he saw the barrier of magic energy that Feng Yuxiu had created melting. Not good. He's too powerful. I can't hold on much longer. Feng Yuxiu gritted her teeth, her eyes filled with fear. Wang He almost cursed out furiously. "Weren't you very arrogant before? You even said that Zhou Xuanji was not powerful enough, and now you can't do it?" Feng Yuxiu raised her left hand, and a jade pendant that looked like a lion's face appeared. In the next second, she and Wang He disappeared. After an unknown period of time, the sword chi dissipated, and the entire world was in a turbid state. Countless dust and dirt filled the air, as if chaos had just begun. A ray of white light could be vaguely seen on the ground. It was Zhou Xuanji. He slowly got up, holding the 9-moon execution sword in his hand. He scanned the surroundings, and all he saw was desolate, without a trace of life. Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 519. I'm too powerful. Zhou Xuanji mumbled to himself. Zhou Xuanji mumbled to himself. He walked to the top of the ruins and sat down cross-legged. With world suppressing, the factions led by one god hall were all annihilated. Everything calmed down. He did not look for Marquises immediately, but chose to break through. When he used world suppressing, he also used world internalization to absorb countless magic energy. If he did not suppress it in time, his body would not be able to endure it. Boom! The heavenly tribulation came as scheduled. Spiritual chi seeped out from the ground and entered his body. He took out the ancient god sword and stabbed it into the ground to defend himself. After that, the heavenly tribulation dispersed. He began to break through. In less than half an hour, he broke through to universe heaven level 7. Because the magic energy in his body was too violent, his heavenly law immortal constitution almost exploded. Fortunately, the power of the divine moon could barely suppress it, and he broke through safely. After breaking through, his body began to transform, and the discomfort subsided. World suppressing had destroyed too many living beings. Their magic energy gathered together was too violent. Zhou Xuanji was shocked. It seemed that he had to be careful when using world internalization in the future. If he killed himself, it would not be fun. Half a day later, he broke through to universe heaven level 8, and the growth of his cultivation began to slow down. Another 2 hours passed, and he completely absorbed the magic energy in his body. Universe heaven level 8. How wonderful! Zhou Xuanji mumbled to himself. Zhou Xuanji mumbled to himself. He looked up and saw thunderclouds billowing, as though something was about to descend. Boom! A beam of light pierced through the clouds and shone on Zhou Xuanji. It was heavenly law of fate. In this battle, Zhou Xuanji had wiped out the 8 sanctums of the Abyss Pearl mainland. Horrifying fate gathered on his body, and the ground undulated like waves. Take out Demon God Tianwu. I will teach you a technique to refine Demon God Tianwu into your clone. Dao Lord Xuantian's voice sounded out in Zhou Xuanji's mind. Next, a wave of memories flowed into the depths of his mind. The ancient god soared beside him trembled violently. Evidently, the souls were extremely excited. Soon, Zhou Xuanji learned the technique to refine a clone from Dao Lord Xuantian. It was called the Soul Division Technique. He could imbue his will into the clone. From now on, whatever he wanted the clone to do, the clone would do instinctively. He immediately took out Demon God Tianwu's corpse. He leaped onto Demon God Tianwu's chest, and the providence of the heavenly Tao shone on Demon God Tianwu's body. He sat down cross-legged and used the Soul Division technique. Demon God Tianwu was not recognized by the heavenly Tao. Back then, when the heavenly saint killed him, he borrowed the power of the heavenly Tao. His corpse still has the heavenly Tao seal, and now you can use the heavenly Tao's luck to erase the heavenly Tao seal. From today onwards, Demon God Tianwu can be revived. Tao Lord Xuantian said excitedly, as if he had obtained Demon God Tianwu. The other souls spoke one after another, all of them very excited. Legend has it that the 10 great demon gods were the earliest demons, immortal and indestructible. Just how strong are they? Let's put it this way. With this clone, at least in the Center God province, no one can harm him. Not only that, Demon God Tianwu will continue to recover his battle strength. As long as he has enough time, he will return to his peak state sooner or later. How strong was Demon God Tianwu at his strongest? Invincible below heavenly saints. Hearing their discussions, Zhou Xuanji felt quite expectant. Soon, he split off a trace of his soul and had it enter Demon God Tianwu's body. The process of splitting his soul was very painful, and he felt as if his head was going to explode. Demon God Tianwu was now ownerless, and the heavenly law seal within his body had disappeared, allowing Zhou Xuanji's soul to easily take over this body. If it was anyone else, they would not be able to take over Demon God Tianwu's body. As soon as their soul got close to the heavenly law seal, they would suffer a backlash. Zhou Xuanji had already obtained most of the Abyss Pearl mainland's fate, and ordinary people could not compare to him. Adding on the Soul Division technique, it was not difficult at all. Sovereign Xian asked out of curiosity, Dao Lord Xuantian, this clone creation technique is not simple. Where did you obtain it? Before, Dao Lord Xuantian had been very curious about him, but he had ignored him. Now the tables had turned. Dao Lord Xuantian did not reply to him, making him feel quite anxious. The other souls also asked curiously. Tao Lord Shintian said, outside the great thousand world, there is an even more vast void. Even though few people go there, there are many serendipity hidden there. I obtained it from a broken cave abode. This clone creation technique is definitely top-notch. Without the soul division technique, no matter how much heavenly law fate you have, you will not be able to remove the heavenly law seal within his body. His tone was filled with arrogance. You guys ignored me before, but what about now? A while later, Zhou Xuanji's trace of soul completely fused with demon god Tianwu's body. In that instant, Zhou Xuanji felt that he had some sort of connection with demon god Tianwu. With a thought, demon god Tianwu slowly stood up. With the heavenly law fate, his shriveled body began to fill up. A layer of horny armor covered his body, and the aura of a demon god emanated, causing the ground to tremble slightly. Zhou Xuanji, who was standing on his head, was shocked in his heart. Such power! He could sense that demon god Tianwu's body contained a power that was even more powerful than his. Pure power. No magic energy. It was as though he could destroy the entire Abyss Pearl mainland with a single punch. He smiled before putting demon god Tianwu into the Tianxia map. This clone would be his trump card, and he could not expose it easily. He sat on the ground and regulated his aura. Half an hour later, the pillar of light formed from the heavenly law fate dissipated. His cultivation did not break through, but his body and emperor's might were greatly strengthened. This feeling of quickly becoming stronger felt so good. At that moment, Feng Yuxiu and Marquis flew over from the horizon. The two of them locked onto his aura and quickly landed in front of him. Marquis said excitedly, "Stinking brat, you're so powerful. You really won, and you only used one sword strike." He swore that he would never forget that sword strike for the rest of his life. Feng Yuxiu looked at Zhou Xuanji with a complicated gaze. This fellow's talent was so terrifying. In all her life, no one had such incredible talent. Even Zhao Gao's could not compare to him. Zhou Xuanji smiled calmly and said, "Victory is in sight. We can't relax. Let's continue." Marquis nodded, and the three of them continued on their journey. News of the seven sanctums being destroyed by Zhou Xuanji spread. This time, the Abyss Pearl mainland felt despair. Many creatures felt that their deaths were near, and they started to go crazy, venting their emotions without restraint. The Abyss Pearl mainland was about to become hell on earth. The unluckiest were those who had ascended. Right after ascending, they found out that the Abyss Pearl mainland was going to be destroyed by the heavenly law. They felt so regretful that their intestines turned green. Zhou Xuanji and the others flew on clouds, and Feng Yuxiu could not help but ask out of curiosity, "What was that sword strike of yours?" Chapter 520. It's a sword technique I created, world suppressing. One sword suppressing the world, isn't it mighty? Zhou Xuanji harumphed. After all, only he knew the sword techniques created by the supreme legendary sword system, so it was not wrong to say that it was a sword technique he created. Hearing this, Feng Yuxiu muttered, "World suppressing. World suppressing." That sword strike from before had indeed been incredibly domineering. As the sword descended, everything on the ground had been turned into barren land. Even someone as powerful as Li Yixin had been instantly killed, unable to resist at all. She sighed and said, "You already have the strength to fight against Zhao Gao's." Zhou Xuanji glanced at her and said, "Only? I can't defeat him 100%? Just as Feng Yuxiu was about to reply, she thought about it. This boy's talent was too powerful, and perhaps he had trump cards. As such, she fell silent. Seeing that she did not reply, Zhou Xuanji felt bored and ignored her. After the 3 god dynasties and 8 sanctums were destroyed, Zhou Xuanji and the others began to wander aimlessly. Now that the Abyss Pearl mainland was in a state of panic, those famous experts were most likely hiding and would not wait for him to kill his way in. If he could defeat Zhao Gao's, the war between two worlds would most likely end. Zhao Gao's was ranked first on the Abyss Pearl hero ranking, and his strength surpassed the Abyss Pearl mainland. However, Zhou Xuanji did not. There were still things in the Abyss Pearl mainland that he could not let go of, so he would often come back. According to Feng Yuxiu, with Zhao Gao's personality, after seeing the Abyss Pearl mainland, he would definitely come to find him. You understand Zhao Gao so well. What's your relationship? Zhou Xuanji asked mockingly. Don't tell me he's your little lover. If I kill him, will you fight me to the death? Feng Yuxiu's gaze was cold as she said, There's a great difference in seniority between us. I pursued the great Tao my entire life and will not be trapped by love. I hope you could be more respectful. Marquis could not help but laugh, causing Feng Yuxiu to glare at him. The relationship between the three of them had become much better. Feng Yuxiu would tell them about the Great Thousand Worlds and the Void so that they would be more prepared when they left the Center God Province. There were exactly 9 known boundless worlds. Legend had it that there were even more boundless worlds a long time ago, but the Heavenly Saint destroyed those boundless worlds in order to better manage them. It's best that you don't enter the Void carelessly in the future. Feng Yuxiu said profoundly. Legend has it that a long time ago, a Heavenly Saint disappeared into the depths of the Void. Later, a new Heavenly Saint took his place. Less than half of the experts who went to the Void return alive. So terrifying? Zhou Xuanji and Marquis looked at each other. They had thought that the Heavenly Saints were omnipotent. They had not expected that there would be something that could threaten them. I heard that the war between the two worlds was to prevent the Great Thousand Worlds from expanding and entering the Void. That was why the Heavenly Saints worked together with the Heavenly Tao to do this. Feng Yuxiu continued to speak, which made Zhou Xuanji raise his brow. Does this woman not know that the gods are 3 feet above her head? Was he not afraid of the Heavenly Saint finding out? Feng Yuxiu saw through his gaze and answered, The Heavenly Saint of the Zhongxian Great Thousand is my teacher. Zhou Xuanji and Wang Ho's expressions were strange. This woman had such a powerful background. It was no wonder that he spoke so freely. Zhou Xuanji felt uneasy in his heart. If he attacked Feng Yuxiu, would the Heavenly Saint take revenge on him? In the investiture of the gods, the saints had fought over their disciples. After Feng Yuxiu revealed her identity, Zhou Xuanji and Wang Ho did not dare to be rude to her anymore. Feng Yuxiu was not arrogant either. No matter what they asked, she answered honestly. In the vast starry sky, Sage Daojing and an old man were playing chess. They were levitating, and the chessboard before them was very strange. It looked like a Tai Chi diagram, but there were other complicated patterns on it. Each of them had 50 chess pieces. One side was black, and the other side was white. The old man who was playing chess with Sage Daojing was Feng Yuxiu's teacher. He was muscular and wore a red robe. His hair was tied up with a golden thread. Hongshi, seems like you're going to lose this game, Sage Daojing said with a smile. Just when he spoke, a few of his opponent's chess pieces fell. Old ancestor Hongshi snorted. So be it. You have lost to me so many times. So what if I give you a handicap this time? He changed the topic and said, This kid is not simple. How did you nurture him? Below the Heavenly Saint, everyone was in their eyes. It's strange. I can't see through this kid. Sage Daojing shook his head and smiled. He paused and guessed. He might have obtained a fortuitous encounter from the Void. Hearing this, old ancestor Hongshi became even more interested. He said, Give him to me, and you can choose any one of my subordinates. Sage Daojing asked teasingly, If I want Si Mingyan, will you be willing? Yes. Really? Would there be any lies between us? Then forget it. I won't trade. You, old ancestor Hongshi was angered by Sage Daojing. He raised his hand and attacked Sage Daojing, who dodged backwards. The two of them were like old children who could not grow up. They were filled with fun. Under the blue sky, the mountains rose and fell. Gu Tianxia sat on a stone chair on the mountain. The stone chair was covered with a thick beast hide. He rested his chin on his right hand and rested. The entire mountain was filled with monsters. At the foot of the mountain, there was a bare tree with 2 people tied to it. The 2 of them were dirty and had messy hair. They were in a sorry state. They stood shoulder to shoulder and glared at Gu Tianxia. They were the Abyss Pearl mainland's children of destiny. When they had first ascended to the Center God province, they had been incredibly majestic. However, they had encountered Gu Tianxia, and their magic energy had been sucked dry. Now they were two cripples. Despicable. If this goes on, we'll become the sinners of the Abyss Pearl mainland, a tall man said as he gritted his teeth. If news of this humiliation reached the Abyss Pearl mainland, would they still have the face to live? The person beside him sighed and said, "What do we do? We're already prisoners. Even though we're in a sorry state, the Center God province's people won't be able to do anything in the Abyss Pearl mainland. The difference in strength between the two worlds is still quite great." It said that the three people sent over have the highest cultivation at Universe Heaven Level 5. Even if their talent is extraordinary, there's still Zhao Gao's. Hearing about Zhao Gao's, the tall man's eyes lit up, and his dispirited look disappeared. As long as the Center God province's 3 geniuses died, they could return. However, they did not know that the Abyss Pearl mainland was about to perish. Elsewhere, Zhou Xuanji and the others landed on a grassy plain. They did not continue onwards and silently waited for Zhao Gao's to descend. Where did Great Emperor Wuwang run off to? Don't tell me he really died? Marquis muttered as he sat on the ground. He felt like he was Great Emperor Wuwang's mortal enemy, and he did not want that fellow to die so quickly. Zhou Xuanji did not reply and instead started to comprehend his way of the sword. Fighting in the Divine Moon state allowed him to comprehend many things. The power of the Divine Moon was peerlessly domineering. When using world-suppressing and primordial chaos sword shadow, advancing courageously was an incredibly wonderful feeling. Feng Yuxiu stood not too far away and looked at the sky, lost in thought. No one knew what she was thinking. Chapter 5:21. With Feng Yuxiu by his side, Zhou Xuanji could not take out demon god Tianwu to study, and he did not cultivate either. The immortal energy stored in the Tianxia map was already massive. After all, he had absorbed the magic energy of hundreds of millions of creatures in the Abyss Pearl mainland. Wang He was comprehending as well. He had learned a lot from his experiences over the years, and he needed to calm his heart and feel them well. Days passed by. The Abyss Pearl mainland was also becoming more and more chaotic. The 3 divine dynasties and the 8 sacred lands were no longer around, and the people of the Abyss Pearl mainland let go of their inner desires. In the face of despair, they went their own ways and acted without restraint. Emperor Wuwang had yet to show himself. Perhaps he really was dead. If he was still alive, after hearing about the situation in the world, he would most likely come to find Zhou Xuanji and Yi Sisi immediately. Of course, there was another possibility. He must have encountered a great opportunity. 3 months passed quickly. Zhou Xuanji could not sit still anymore. Rather than doing nothing, it was better to go to the Abyss Pearl mainland and search for treasures. He told Wang He his idea, and the two of them hit it off immediately. Feng Yuxiu led the way. For her own death tribulation, Feng Yuxiu was willing to lead the way. She did not know why, but when she was beside Zhou Xuanji, she felt very peaceful. This feeling was very strange, and it made her even more curious about Zhou Xuanji. Are there any powerful treasures in the Abyss Pearl mainland? It would be best if they are heavenly treasures that can increase one's cultivation. Zhou Xuanji asked, not for himself. He wanted to collect more and bring them back to plant in order to support Emperor Sword Court and Divine Cliff. Feng Yuxiu muttered, "I'll bring you to the south. There's an ice region in the south. The natural treasures there can survive for a very long time because there are few people there." Wang He asked curiously, how many continents like the Abyss Pearl mainland are there in the Zhongxian Great Thousand? When they first arrived, they saw many continents that looked like small islands. They were all about the same size, and there were no obvious continents. At least a few hundred. I don't know exactly how many there are. I've been cultivating with Master for a long time, and I haven't traveled the entire Righteous Gone Great Thousand. Feng Yuxiu said with a deep voice. Zhou Xuanji and Marquis looked at each other and saw the sorrow in each other's eyes. A heavenly saint's disciple was indeed impressive. The two of them immediately flew towards the south. Outside the Zhenggan Great Thousand, a figure sped through the universe, faster than a meteor. His entire body glowed with a faint white light. His expression was grave and stern, and his silver hair danced wildly in the wind. He wore a blue and white robe, and a golden folding fan was stuck to his back. He was Zhao Gao's. Recently, his mind had been restless, and he was unable to cultivate in peace. So, he could only return to the Abyss Pearl mainland to take a look. His gaze was calm as he stared straight ahead without shifting his gaze. Xiao! A beam of golden light shot towards him from the front, startling him into tilting his head and dodging it easily. A gigantic figure appeared in front of them. This person's entire body shone with golden light. He was tens of thousands of feet tall and had 12 wings on his back. His aura was extremely powerful. Zhao Gaos also stopped and asked in a deep voice, "Who are you and why are you stopping me?" The golden figure replied, "Zhao Gaos, I advise you not to go back. The Abyss Pearl mainland has been chosen to participate in the war between two realms, and it is currently on the verge of destruction. Even if you go back now, it will be useless. Why take such a risk?" The war between the two worlds. Zhao Gao's expression changed dramatically. He said in a low voice, "Are you trying to provoke me?" He did not know the other party at all, and the other party was definitely not trying to dissuade him out of goodwill. "Ha ha! Zhao Gaos, you are highly regarded by old ancestor Hongshi. If you die at the hands of the Center God Province's Sword Emperor, wouldn't that bring shame to old ancestor Hongshi?" The golden figure loudly laughed. Just as he spoke, Zhao Gaos pierced through his body and sped towards the Zhenggan Great Thousand. Zhao Gaos quickly disappeared into the depths of the universe. The golden figure slowly turned and said in a low voice, "Zhao Gaos, if you can kill that Sword Emperor, you will not live for long. This is your destiny." Within a world of ice and snow, Zhou Xuanji slowly walked forwards, holding the nine-moon execution sword. He continuously picked up white lotus-like flowers and pulled them up by the roots before putting them into the supreme storage. Marquis and Feng Yuxiu stood on a hill, looking up at the sky. From here, they could see the starry sky. There were countless stars above the thin clouds and mist, looking as beautiful as a painting. "He's coming. I can already sense his aura." Feng Yuxiu suddenly frowned as she muttered. Marquis asked, "How powerful is his aura?" The crucial battle had arrived. As long as they could kill Zhao Gaos, the war between two realms would come to an end. Feng Yuxiu replied, "Very powerful. He has already surpassed Universe Heaven and is only a step away from the next level." Hearing this, Marquis tightly frowned. Now that things had come to this, he could only choose to believe in Zhou Xuanji. He turned and saw that Zhou Xuanji was still focused on collecting natural treasures, as if he did not know that Zhao Gaos was coming. Unknowingly, he could not see through Zhou Xuanji at all. This feeling was as if he was looking up at a senior. An hour later, all beings in the Abyss Pearl mainland, do not panic. I, Zhao Gaos, will personally kill the Center God Province's Sword Emperor Zhou Xuanji. All of you wait and do not cause any trouble. Zhao Gao's voice sounded out, his tone cold and filled with soul-freezing, killing intent. At that moment, he was standing on a ruined city. He floated in the air and looked down. Below was a wasteland with piles of rubble. It was difficult to imagine that this had once been a city. Looking out, the nearby mountains and forests were just as desolate. He gripped his fists and gritted his teeth as he said, "Zhou Xuanji, I will definitely tear you to pieces." After saying this, he turned into a ray of light and shot south. Zhou Xuanji, who was picking up flowers, suddenly stopped. Legendary swords appeared around him, and his black clothes slightly fluttered. The 9 Sun Spirit Source crown on his head gave off a cold light, and his gaze became incredibly cold. The cultivator absorbing demon sealer appeared in his left hand. This disaster-releasing legendary sword was blood red, and the hilt looked like a demon's face, looking incredibly savage and terrifying. Boom! His body gave off a dazzling white light, and his aura exploded out, causing the ice and snow beneath his feet to crack. Marquis was given a big fright and asked anxiously, "Is he coming?" Feng Yuxiu lightly nodded before flying up and moving away from Zhou Xuanji. Marquis hurriedly followed after her. This was a battle between gods, and he did not dare to participate in case he was accidentally injured. Soon, he sensed a peerlessly terrifying, murderous aura sweeping over from the horizon. He turned his head to look. Swish, Zhao Gao's flashed past him and Feng Yuxiu, rushing toward Zhou Xuanji incredibly quickly. Marquis' eyes widened, and all of his hairs stood on end. In that instant, he had sensed the aura of death. Zhao Gao took out the golden folding fan on his back and slashed toward Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji raised his sword with one hand to block, and with a clang, the ice beneath his feet shattered, turning into a terrifying abyss. Zhao Gao's expression was cold, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Through the white light, he could see Zhou Xuanji's gaze. It was just as cold. This was the first time the two of them had met. They did not say anything and directly started fighting. Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 522. Clang, clang, clang. Zhou Xuanji and Zhao Gao fell into an intense battle. The legendary sword and golden fan continuously clashed, causing sparks to fly. The two of them soared into the sky and dove into the ground, fighting intensely. The two of them separated once more. Zhao Gao gripped his fan with one hand and quickly waved it. Countless fiery winds charged toward Zhou Xuanji from all directions like an inescapable net. Zhou Xuanji charged toward him and activated the Trisource Vein, severing sword at the same time. His sword chi was like a violent storm, dispersing the fiery wind. Zhao Gao's leg lashed out. This leg was covered in lightning, and its aura was powerful, as if it could destroy the heavens. Zhou Xuanji directly unleashed the ancestral dragon sword, turning into a 5-clawed golden dragon and rushing toward Zhao Gao's. The 100,000-foot-long 5-clawed golden dragon crashed down, forcing Zhao Gao's to the ground. He exerted strength with his legs and did not lie down. The 5-clawed golden dragon pressed down on him as it charged forward at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, it had traversed hundreds of miles, smashing through numerous icebergs. Zhao Gao's was expressionless, and a violet soul condensed behind him. The violet soul punched out, and a terrifying power instantly caused the 5-clawed golden dragon to explode. Zhou Xuanji revealed his original body and rushed into the clouds to unleash world-suppressing. Zhao Gao's legs shot into the air as he quickly caught up to him. Roar! A world-shaking roar sounded out as Zhao Gao opened his mouth and an evil spirit charged out. It had a green face and fangs, and it quickly grew in size as it smashed towards Zhou Xuanji like a mountain. 9 sword souls condensed behind Zhou Xuanji, and they continuously shot out, destroying the evil ghosts and forcing Zhao Gao down. This guy's magic power is so strong. Zhou Xuanji inwardly felt quite startled. Only in the divine moon state could his power and speed just barely match up to Zhao Gao's. Just how high was this guy's cultivation? Unbeknownst to them, Zhao Gao was also shocked. Zhou Xuanji's body was filled with an unfamiliar power, but he could tell that Zhou Xuanji was only at Universe Heaven Level 8. How could a Universe Heaven Stage 8 cultivator withstand such a powerful divine power? Zhou Xuanji unleashed the primordial chaos sword shadow, and 1 billion sword images appeared above his head, descending towards Zhao Gao's like a torrential rain. The momentum was vast, as if the heavens were collapsing. Zhao Gao suddenly took out a sword and slashed at the sky. The purple sword chi was like a continuous mountain range, destroying millions of sword shadows. The other swords continued to descend, attacking Zhao Gao. Zhao Gao was quickly engulfed by the sword images. Zhou Xuanji followed up into the clouds. "He's here," Wang Ho said excitedly. The sword that could destroy heaven and earth had finally appeared. Feng Yuxiu also looked closely at Zhou Xuanji, wanting to see through this sword strike. Rumble! A strong light shone and scattered all the sword shadows. At this moment, Zhou Xuanji descended from the sky, and with the 9-moon execution sword, he descended like a falling comet. Zhao Gao's pupils constricted as he sensed danger. He subconsciously wanted to dodge, but just as he soared into the air, Zhou Xuanji suddenly used universal attraction, pulling Zhao Gaos over and smashing his sword towards him. Bang! A strong light burst forth, and a horrifying sword qi wreaked havoc between heaven and earth. Feng Yuxiu hurriedly cast a light shield of mana to protect herself and Marquis. Sword qi wreaked havoc in the surroundings, causing the two of them to be unable to see their surroundings clearly. This scene caused Marquis's blood to boil. He gripped his fists and muttered, "You have to win." The earlier they could win, the more lives they could save. Sword qi continuously rumbled, as if the heavens and earth were collapsing and the end of the world was coming. After a while, Marquis and Feng Yuxiu suddenly heard the sound of swords clashing. Could it be? Marquis's eyes widened, and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. The intense light gradually dimmed, and they finally saw Zhou Xuanji and Zhao Gao's figures. Zhao Gao's was covered with blood, but his attacks were still incredibly powerful. Zhou Xuanji's black clothes fluttered, and he was not injured at all. He seemed to have the upper hand. "Zhou Xuanji, you're indeed very powerful," Zhao Gao said, his tone still cold. Zhou Xuanji said coldly, "My power is far from just this." He condensed his battle path flame soul, and azure flames wrapped around the white light. He used sword sect Immortal Ghost Weep and had the other swords defend against Zhao Gao's attacks while he raised the 9-moon execution sword high and gathered the divine moon's energy. The Abyss Pearl mainland violently trembled. At this critical juncture, the Abyss Pearl mainland understood that the crucial battle was coming. It was going to give all of its power to Zhou Xuanji so that he could take revenge for it. Flash floods and tsunamis rose up. This was the divine moon's roar. It was not willing to become the Abyss Pearl mainland that all creatures could trample on. It was the high and mighty divine moon that looked down on all creatures. Zhao Gao's panicked. He could sense that the heavens and earth were sending some sort of power into Zhou Xuanji, and Zhou Xuanji's aura was continuously rising. Zhou Xuanji's expression became one of pain. Even though he had Universe Heaven Level 8 cultivation, he could not withstand such berserk divine moon's energy. Zhao Gaos rushed at Zhou Xuanji. He came in front of Zhou Xuanji in a single step, and his golden fan gave off countless lightning bolts, turning into a lightning net that wrapped around Zhou Xuanji. White light exploded out from Zhou Xuanji's body, blocking all of the lightning. The 9-sword souls behind him madly shot out, forcing Zhao Gaos to continuously retreat. "Zhao Gaos, I'll give you the same words. You are indeed very powerful, but it's a pity that I can't truly fight with you. You're going to die," Zhou Xuanji said in a low voice as he looked down at Zhao Gaos. After speaking, he ferociously threw out the 9-moon execution sword. The sword turned into a ray of white light and shot into the sky before suddenly descending toward Zhao Gaos. Within the turbid heavens and earth, this ray of white light was incredibly brilliant and eye-catching. The sword was incredibly fast. Zhao Gaos sensed danger and instinctively dodged. However, the 9-moon execution sword suddenly sped up. Powerful light flashed. World suppressing. Boom! The 9-moon execution sword pressed down on Zhao Gaos as it fell into the ruined ground. The ground violently trembled and the ice and snow melted. Oceans rose up and roiled. Zhou Xuanji instantly felt a massive wave of magic energy enter his body. His mental state instantly recovered, and he raised his right hand as the 9-moon execution sword flew back into his hand. He smirked and muttered, "Zhao Gaos, I hope you have a next life. I won this battle." He canceled the divine moon state and immediately started to break through. The 9-moon execution, Sword's divine moon energy, helped to suppress the surging magic energy within his body. Rumble, thunderclouds gathered, and heavenly law fate descended, scattering the turbid heavens and earth and shining on Zhou Xuanji's body. He really won. Feng Yuxiu's eyes widened, unable to understand. Why did the Abyss Pearl mainland disregard everything to help Zhou Xuanji? Why could Zhou Xuanji endure this power that surpassed universe heaven? Marquis felt incredibly excited and loudly laughed as he said, "Victory! Victory!" After Zhou Xuanji finished absorbing the heavenly law fate, the war between two worlds was about to end. The Center God Province had been saved. At the same time, Zhou Xuanji's aura madly became stronger. Soon, he broke through to Universe Heaven Level 9, and he was still continuously rising. Very good. Let's keep this up, Zhou Xuanji said excitedly. When he returned to the Center God Province, it would be time for him to rule the world. Even without such a powerful divine moon state, he would still be able to sweep across the world. If he met malicious Buddha again, he would make that fellow taste despair. I have countless legendary swords. Chapter 523. The pillar of light formed by heavenly law fate was like the only source of light in this dark world, and Zhou Xuanji, who was within it, was like a god. Old ancestor Hongshu's voice suddenly rang out, cold and emotionless. The war between the two worlds has ended. All living beings in the Abyss Pearl mainland have perished. As soon as he finished speaking, all the living beings on the Abyss Pearl mainland, regardless of where they were turned into ashes in succession without any pain. Zhou Xuanji and the others were fine and waited silently. The fairness of the heavenly Tao was merciless. The winner was king, and the loser perished. In less than 5 breaths of time, all living beings disappeared. Meanwhile, Sage Daojing's voice rang out in the Center God Province. The war between two worlds has ended. Sword Emperor Zhou Xuanji destroyed the Abyss Pearl mainland by himself. Center God Province victory. Every living being in the Center God Province could hear it. In an instant, cheers shook the world. Zhou Xuanji is so powerful. He's too strong. He's going to destroy an entire world by himself. We don't have to die. From today onwards, who dares to offend Zhou Xuanji? Am I dreaming? How could he win by himself? Do you dare to doubt the words of the heavenly saint? The entire world was in an uproar, and every city was shouting Zhou Xuanji's name. Within the divine Cliff's mansion, Zhou Shaoxian hugged Jiang Shui and screamed in excitement. Xiao Chan and Bai Suan were also very excited. Jiang Shui did not seem to be too excited. She had a smile on her face, and her eyes were calm, because she had always believed that Zhou Xuanji would win. Within the Center God Province, everyone who had connections with Zhou Xuanji was shocked. Was this guy already this terrifying? The Abyss Pearl mainland. Within the Dark World, Zhou Xuanji's cultivation reached Universe Heaven Level 10, and the pillar of heavenly law fate began to dissipate. An irresistible suction force bound him and pulled him up. So did Marquis. Feng Yuxiu remained where she was, quietly looking up at her. Zhou Xuanji looked at her and said, "Thank you for your help." From the beginning to the end, Feng Yuxiu had never made any requests of him. She only followed him. Because of Feng Yuxiu, he understood the higher sky. If we meet again in the future, I hope you will be even stronger, Feng Yuxiu said. Her voice traveled into Zhou Xuanji's ears from afar. In the dark and cold wind, she felt as if she would be swallowed up at any time. Zhou Xuanji lightly nodded. Soon, he and Marquis turned into 2 rays of rainbow light and flew into the sky. When they were far away from the ground, they saw another beam of light sweeping over from the ground, quickly approaching them. Wang Ho cursed. That bastard really isn't dead. He's been hiding all along. He was very displeased. He had accompanied Zhou Xuanji through trials and tribulations. Even though he did not put in much effort, he still followed along. Where was Emperor Wang? He actually took advantage of the time when they were sharing the pressure and when to cultivate alone. This was simply intolerable. Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes. For some reason, Great Emperor Wuwang gave him a sense of danger. It even made him feel a trace of disgust. This feeling was involuntary and extremely strange. Zhou Xuanji stored all his legendary swords into the supreme storage and waited to return to the Center God Province. The three beams of light merged together, and they saw Great Emperor Wuwang. At this moment, Emperor Wuwang had become incomparably demonic. His eyes were crimson, and his body had become muscular. His hair had grown all the way to his heels. What happened? Wang Ho asked with a frown. Could this guy have gone mad? Emperor Wuwang's lips curled up into a devilish smile. I'm fine. I merely obtained a fortuitous encounter. He looked at Zhou Xuanji and said, This battle was all thanks to you. Zhou Xuanji nodded lightly and did not say anything. Great Emperor Wuwang walked to a corner and sat down cross-legged, continuing to cultivate. He did not feel any joy from winning the battle. Something strange. Wang Ho rubbed his chin and mumbled to himself. He purposely said this to Great Emperor Wuwang, but Great Emperor Wuwang did not respond. They were sucked into the universe and quickly flew toward the Center God Province. Zhou Xuanji turned around and looked at the vast starry sky. The void. He fell into a daze and remembered Feng Yuxiu's description. He had a premonition that one day he would head into the void to search for even more powerful power. A long while later, they returned to Still Thought Temple. Sage Daojing was looking at them with a smile. Wang Ho asked first, How are the casualties in the Center God Province? Sage Daojing stroked his long beard and said with a smile, Fortunately, a junior called Gu Tianxia appeared. He suppressed the three children of destiny in the Abyss Pearl mainland all by himself. In other words, the Center God Province did not encounter much danger. Zhou Xuanji and the others were stunned. Gu Tianxia. Zhou Xuanji suddenly remembered that eyeball. Could it really be Gu Tianxia's eye? No wonder Sage Daojing pulled it out from Zhou Xuanji's body. It was for the war between the two worlds. Such a shrewd person. Next, I will erase all living beings' memories of the war between the two worlds. Other than you and Gu Tianxia, no one will remember this war. Even if you mention it, they will not remember it. Sage Daojing said with a smile. Zhou Xuanji and the others had no objections. Zhou Xuanji felt a little regretful. He had acted so cool for so long, but no one remembered. It was good that the enemies did not know his true power. But he did not know if the living beings in the other provinces knew what happened in the Center God Province during this period. Don't worry. Once the war between the two worlds begins, it will be isolated from the other worlds. Other than the mortals who ascended from the lower realm, no other living beings can enter, nor can they use their divine sense to get any information. Sage Daojing said as he stared at Zhou Xuanji as though he could read minds. Zhou Xuanji felt a chill down his spine. Okay, you can leave now. Of course, you can also stay in Still Thought Temple to cultivate. Sage Daojing said with a smile before closing his eyes. Marquis was a little stunned and asked, Is there no reward? Sage Daojing replied without opening his eyes. You should have received a great serendipity. This is your reward. Zhou Xuanji smiled and left. Great Emperor Wuwang bowed to Sage Daojing and left as well. Marquis was furious and said, I did not receive any serendipity. Not only did he not receive any serendipity, but he was also tortured for a period of time. No matter how he tried to explain, Sage Daojing ignored him, which made him stomp his feet in anger. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji and Great Emperor Wuwang walked out of Still Thought Temple. Great Emperor Wuwang looked at him and said, Zhou Xuanji, you are very powerful. You are much more powerful than before. I hope that we will never be enemies. Zhou Xuanji glanced at him with a faint smile and said, I rarely nurture my enemies. Great Emperor Wuwang smiled and disappeared on the spot. Zhou Xuanji followed him into the sea of clouds and flew toward the divine cliff. Universe Heaven Level 10 was extremely powerful. He passed through the 32nd heaven swiftly. After returning to the divine cliff, he appeared in the courtyard straightaway. Jiang Shui, who was cultivating under a tree, opened her eyes, and snorted. Where did you go during the heavenly saint's Tao preaching? How dare you leave us behind without saying a word? Zhou Xuanji walked up to her and squatted down. He touched her face and said with a smile, I was brought away by the heavenly saint to cultivate in still thought temple. I came back to see you. Chapter 524. It seems like the heavenly saint thinks very highly of you. Jiang Shui held Zhou Xuanji's arm and said with a smile. Her eyes were filled with tenderness as she looked at him. This was her man. He was indomitable and dazzling no matter where he went. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, Tell me, if one day the heavenly saint erases your memory and you cannot remember me, what should you do? Jiang Shui frowned slightly and said, I will definitely remember you. She suddenly felt a little worried. The heavenly saints were powerful and almost omnipotent. It was not difficult for them to erase her memories. She was a little worried and said, Why don't you leave me something or a mark? Let me know that you are the most important person to me when I see it. Seeing how nervous she was, Zhou Xuanji laughed out loud. This girl was still as adorable as before. Zhou Xuanji began to think about what he should leave behind. If one day he really became an enemy of the heavenly saints, he had to be careful. Then they got up and went to see Zhou Shaoxian, Bai Suan, and the others. Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Tsongyan, and the others had already ascended to the Center God Province, while Chun Bantian, Meng Tianlang, Lin Changge, and Ning Zifeng were out adventuring. Emperor Sword Court had Douya Old Man, Bei Xiao Wangjian, Huang Lianxin, Han Xinbua, and the others. With Zhou Xuanji adventuring in the Center God Province, no one in Emperor Sword Court would rebel. As for an enemy attack, it was even more impossible. Bei Xiao Wangjian and the others already had the cultivation of a great tribulation scattered immortal after listening to the preaching. It was not a problem for them to roam the mortal world. 2 hours later, Zhou Xuanji came to the Cliff Master Palace and met Yang Yutian. Yang Yutian was dealing with the affairs of the Divine Cliff. For some reason, Zhou Xuanji felt that something was wrong with him. There was a baleful aura and fatigue on his face. Are you okay? Zhou Xuanji asked. Yang Yutian was the lord of the Divine Cliff, after all. Even though he was not as talented as Han Shuzi, he did not cause any trouble for the Divine Cliff. Yang Yutian shook his head and laughed. How could anything happen to me? You don't have to worry. In the entire sect, he would only smile when facing Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji said intently, I've been cultivating with the heavenly saint for a while, and things are different now. If the Divine Cliff has any difficulties in the future, just tell me directly. Don't be afraid of making enemies. In order to protect him, the Divine Cliff had suffered countless casualties. He naturally had to protect them. No matter who dared to harm the Divine Cliff, he would not show mercy. Yang Yutian was taken aback, and a look of struggle flashed in his eyes. He forced a smile and said, If there are any difficulties, I will look for you. After saying so much, Zhou Xuanji could not say anything more. The two of them exchanged some pleasantries before he left. Looking at his departing back, Yang Yutian sighed softly. After the war between the two realms ended, the Center God Province regained its peace. Mo Jiuqing was still seeking revenge everywhere, and immortal soldiers and immortal generals would occasionally descend to the mortal world to eliminate evil. There were also fights between the various factions. Zhou Xuanji felt like it was a lifetime ago. His cultivation level was at the Universe Heaven Stage level 10, which made him feel like he was looking at a mortal. It wasn't that his temperament was inflated, it was the level of his realm. Ordinary people would never truly treat ants as equals. They would only give them the respect they deserved verbally. Zhou Xuanji returned to the northern wilderness region and passed the seeds he collected to Douya Old Man for him to plant. After that, he left the mortal world and came to the void between the mortal world and the vast thousand world. The void between planes was pitch black, and only those at the heavenly law, true God realm could see. He took out demon god Tianwu's clone and began to study it. He was very curious as to why demon god Tianwu's body was so terrifying. He first used his divine abilities on demon god Tianwu, continuously increasing his power. Finally, he found that he could not harm demon god Tianwu at all. "I found a treasure," Zhou Xuanji said excitedly. Demon god Tianwu had already become his clone and listened to him completely. It could fight instinctively, so he did not have to be too distracted during battles. Zhou Xuanji continued to study demon god Tianwu's body. He found that this fellow's muscles were ridiculously powerful. They were the toughest thing he had ever seen. A month quickly passed. He still could not understand the secret behind demon god Tianwu's power. He could only attribute it to his race's talent. Tao Lord Xintian said that the 10 great demon gods were the ancestors and pinnacle of the demon race. They had once dominated the various great thousand worlds, but because they were too powerful, the other races joined forces to resist them. In the end, they were defeated. The demon race mixed with other races and reproduced. Until today, the demon race's bloodline was no longer pure. The only true demon left was the demonic ancestor. This demonic ancestor was once one of the 10 great demon gods. He was extremely powerful and was one of the most powerful beings below the heavenly saints. This day, Zhou Xuanji stored demon god Tianwu into the Tianxia map and prepared to leave. "Stop! Hand over the demon god's body. Or else, don't blame me for being ruthless." A cold cry came. The voice was filled with an oppressive aura. Zhou Xuanji turned around and saw a muscular man with 6 wings looking at him. This person was wearing heavy bronze armor. His face was like a ferocious tiger, and his brown hair fluttered in the wind. Universe Heaven Level 10. No wonder he dared to find trouble with him. Zhou Xuanji took out the 9-moon execution sword and said with a faint smile, "What if I refuse? You want to kill me? Can you?" His provocative words enraged the 6-winged man immediately. He immediately took out a large saber and charged at Zhou Xuanji. Before he arrived, his saber chi swept over like a phantom in the void. Zhou Xuanji blocked it easily with his sword soul. Since the other party was seeking death, then don't blame him for being ruthless. He activated the primordial chaos sword shadow straight away. A billion sword shadows filled the void and surrounded the 6-winged man. The 6-winged man's expression changed slightly. Just when he was about to speak, the billion sword shadows charged toward him simultaneously. Boom! The sword chi exploded, radiating a brilliant radiance that illuminated the void. Zhou Xuanji was expressionless. He watched for a while before turning around slowly. The other party was already dead, at the same cultivation stage. To find trouble with him was no different from seeking death. Zhou Xuanji stepped out of the void and returned to the northern wilderness region. Then, he came to the divine cliff through the portal. Killing the 6-winged man was a small matter to him, so he did not take it to heart. Just when he returned to his residence, Fei Hai came to find him. "Senior, the great heaven god dynasty is preparing to execute Di Guanlong. They invited everyone to witness it. You received the invitation too." After Fei Hai spoke, he took out a red invitation. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow. The old beggar had not saved Di Guanlong yet. Could something have happened? He opened the invitation. The execution would take place on the great heaven god dynasty's god platform in 8 months. After some thought, he decided to go and take a look. With his current cultivation, there was no point in continuing to cultivate. It was better to travel around. On the same day, he left with Jiang Shui. As for Zhou Shaoxian, Xiao Chan, and Bai Suwen, they wanted to follow, but Zhou Xuanji rejected them, which made them quite depressed. It was rare for him to have a chance to be alone with his wife. He could not wait for others to accompany him. The two left on the clouds like a celestial couple. We can try to give Shaoxian a younger brother on the way. Chapter 525. Zhou Xuanji flew very slowly and preached to Jiang Shui along the way. Jiang Shui's cultivation was already its 7th tribulation scattered immortal. After the heavenly saints' preaching, her cultivation grew tremendously. She was not any slower than Chun Ban Tian and Meng Tianlang. Zhou Xuanji's cultivation far surpassed hers. He could use his words to bring her into a state of enlightenment, which allowed her cultivation to grow rapidly. Along the way, he preached and thought about what to prepare for Jiang Shui. Even though she had lost her memory, she knew that Zhou Xuanji was the most important person to her. In the end, he decided to take out a piece of jade pendant and create a virtual illusion. He wanted Jiang Shui to say something, just like recording a video with a mobile phone. When she poured her mana into the jade pendant, the illusion would appear. He felt that it was not enough. What if the girl did not believe him? They walked and stopped along the way, sightseeing and sightseeing. It was quite an interesting and carefree journey. Above the 33rd heaven, before Still Thought Temple, a man with a head full of white hair knelt in front of the gate. He wore a large robe embroidered with a red flame pattern, and he wore a silver circlet on his head. His face was cold, and his eyes were purple without pupils. The boy who was sweeping the floor swept his eyes again and again without speaking. Sometime later, the gate of Still Thought Temple opened suddenly, and a powerful force swept the fiery-robed man into the temple. Next, the gate closed again. Deep within the temple, Sage Daojing sat on the praying mat and did not even open his eyes. He said, "Zhao Kanglin, I know why you have come, but you should understand the rules of the war between two worlds. If you continue to persist in going about things the wrong way, I will personally destroy you. Even old ancestor Hongshi will not be able to escape this matter." The fiery-robed man, called Zhao Kanglin, gritted his teeth. He was unwilling to give up. His beloved son, Zhao Gao's, died in Zhou Xuanji's hands. He could not take this lying down. Putting his feelings aside, he had spent a lot of effort on Zhao Gao's. After knowing that Zhao Gao's was dead, he vomited blood on the spot. He came to Still Thought Temple straight away and begged Sage Daojing to let him into the Center God Province. Hearing Sage Daojing's rejection, Zhao Kanglin gritted his teeth. He flipped his right hand, and a palm-sized yellow parchment appeared in his hand. He raised his hand and passed it to Sage Daojing. Sage Daojing sensed something and opened his eyes. He took the yellow parchment and looked at it closely. Sage Daojing's eyes widened, as if he had seen something unbelievable. After all, he was a heavenly saint. How could there be an existence that could shock him? Zhao Kanglin said, "I found this in the void, but I didn't hand it over to old ancestor Hongshi, which shows my sincerity. I also believe that you won't tell him about this." His eyes flickered and his face darkened. Taking out this treasure made his heart bleed. Sage Daojing's gaze changed as he weighed the pros and cons. In the end, he said, "I can give you a chance to take revenge, but after all, Zhou Xuanji has contributed greatly to the Center God Province. How about this? Give him 10 years, and I will tell him in advance to have him prepare. I will not provide any help, and after 10 years, I will leave this great thousand world. You should understand why I will leave." Zhao Kanglin agreed without hesitation. He cupped his fists and said, "If you can find the great Tao, I hope you can give me a chance to live. For this item, I almost died." Sage Daojing was expressionless as he said, "Wait in Still Thought Temple for now. You're not allowed to leave within 10 years. Zhao Kanglin had no objections. He walked to the side and began to meditate. Under the blue sky and white clouds, Zhou Xuanji and Jiang Shui lay on a hill, enjoying the gentle breeze. Following their gaze, there were undulating mountains in front of them. They were extremely beautiful and relaxed. At this moment, Sage Daojing appeared on the mountain peak and looked down at the two of them. Zhou Xuanji sensed something and got up. Seeing that it was Sage Daojing, he was a little surprised. "Why is this old guy here?" Sage Daojing looked calm and said, "Zhou Xuanji, I have something to tell you." Jiang Shui got up and walked to the top of the mountain with Zhou Xuanji. "What is it?" Zhou Xuanji asked curiously. Sage Daojing did not hide anything and told her about his deal with Zhao Kanglin. Zhou Xuanji was silent. Jiang Shui, on the other hand, was furious. She clenched her fist and asked, "Aren't you a heavenly saint? What else can tempt you?" In her eyes, the heavenly saint was already the most powerful being, on par with the heavenly law. Sage Dao Jing said faintly. The heavenly saints look powerful, but they are actually the puppets of the heavenly law. I found an opportunity to surpass the heavenly saint. After 10 years, I will leave Wanshan Great Thousand. By then, Wanshan Great Thousand will not be suppressed by the heavenly saints. With Zhou Xuanji's cultivation, he should be able to handle it. He flipped his right hand and injected a ball of violet qi into Zhou Xuanji's body. Jiang Shui became even more anxious and quickly checked Zhou Xuanji's body. This is the heavenly law of violet qi. Under the heavenly law, there are only 9. It represents the opportunity to become a saint. If I can surpass the heavenly saint or die, you could become a saint with this qi. Sage Daojing said, and Zhou Xuanji and Jiang Shui's expressions changed. Heavenly law of violet qi. Become a saint? Zhou Xuanji took a deep breath and asked, how powerful is Zhao Kanglin? Now that it had come to this, he could not say anything more. Since they wanted to fight, then let's fight. Connecting Heaven Stage 1. Sage Daojing replied, which made Zhou Xuanji frown. He had indeed surpassed Universe Heaven. Jiang Shui was curious. What was connecting Heaven Stage 1? Sage Daojing replied, in a mortal world, qi nurturing begins. It goes through foundation building, enlightening, inner pellet, soul fountain, astral infant, astral projection, spirit refinement, great realization, and so on. After surpassing mortals, one reaches 9 tribulations scattered immortal. Beyond, that is golden immortal 10th revolution, void extreme immortal, heavenly law true God, universe heaven level 18, and connecting heaven 10. If one reaches connecting heaven 10, he will be qualified to become a saint. But without the heavenly law of violet qi, he cannot become a saint. Connecting heaven 10. Zhou Xuanji suddenly remembered the grades of his legendary swords. Ancient gazing, disaster releasing, universe essence, overturning heaven, connecting heaven, 9 extreme, primordial chaos. Could it be that connecting heaven 10 and the 9 extreme represented the 9 saints? What about primordial chaos? Surpassing the heavenly law? Sage Daojing's body gradually turned transparent. He stared at Zhou Xuanji and said, I see hope in you. If I fail to become a saint, I hope you can manage Wanshan Great Thousand well. As soon as he finished speaking, he disappeared on the spot. From the beginning to the end, he was never worried that Zhou Xuanji would be killed by Zhao Kanglin. Zhou Xuanji could not calm his emotions and fell into silence. Jiang Shui was anxious. Xuanji, what should we do now? Connecting Heaven Stage 1. She remembered that Zhou Xuanji had just broken through to Universe Heaven. It was impossible for him to surpass the gap of 18 levels. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, don't worry, I won't die. After that, he took out the ancient god sword and communicated with the 9 souls. This time, he introduced the 9 souls to Jiang Shui. Jiang Shui was shocked to know that the souls of Lu Wuji, Emperor Zhao, and the other ancestors were in the ancient god sword. As for the origin of the ancient god sword, she did not ask further. Chapter 5:26. The ancient god sword floated in the air, and the 9 souls appeared like 9 shadows swaying in the air. No, becoming a heavenly saint isn't good. Even if I want to become an overlord saint, I have to become one. Tao Master Xuantian's soul shook his head, making Jiang Shui curious. What was an overlord saint? However, Zhou Xuanji understood that this was most likely the path that demon god Tianwu walked on. After becoming a saint, he would become an overlord saint and would not be controlled by the heavenly law. Emperor Zhao grumbled, all right then, give me the heavenly Tao violet qi, and we'll be invincible together. As soon as he said that, the other souls mocked and ridiculed him. You haven't even been resurrected, and you're already thinking of becoming a saint? Zhou Xuanji's eyes brightened. He looked at Jiang Shui and said, when the time comes, I will walk the path of the overlord saint, and you will walk the path of the heavenly saint. In the future, I will walk the path of the transcending saint and come back to help you. Isn't that perfect? Jiang Shui said hesitantly. The Overlord Sage is definitely dangerous. Don't take the risk. He had not even dealt with Zhao Kanglin, and this guy was already thinking about becoming a sage. She really wanted to pry open his head and see what he was thinking. Let's continue our journey. We'll kill Zhao Kanglin in 10 years. Zhou Xuanji put away the ancient god sword and held Jiang Shui's hand as he smiled. Jiang Shui curled her lips and said, "Are you really confident in dealing with him? By the way, how did you become enemies with him? What is the War of the Two Realms?" She was so confused by the conversation that she forgot to ask. She was so attracted by the fact that Zhao Kanglin wanted to kill Zhou Xuanji that she forgot to ask. Zhou Xuanji gave a simple explanation, and Jiang Shui cried out in shock. She said fearfully, "The Heavenly Saint can really erase my memory. No, I have to hurry up and cultivate. I can't forget you." She had no recollection of the War of the Two Realms, and this feeling terrified her. Zhou Xuanji hooked her nose and smiled. "Let's not talk about cultivation for now. Xiao Xian wants a little brother, so we must hurry." Jiang Shui rolled her eyes at him and scoffed. "You should be the one working hard on this, okay?" In the blink of an eye, the day of Di Guanlong's execution had arrived. On the altar of the great heaven god dynasty, Di Guanlong knelt on the ground, shackles on his body. His eyes were lifeless, and his body was covered in wounds. It was hard to imagine what he had experienced. The edge of the divine altar was packed with people. Di Guanlong was a famous expert in the Center God province. He had been the most talented genius in the Center God province until Zhou Xuanji appeared. In the distance within a building, Shi Xinzong stood in front of a window and looked at the God platform. A white-haired old man was drinking wine in the room. He wore a Taoist robe and held a sword in his right hand. Even when he was pouring wine, the sword never left his side. He was Sword Sovereign Gu. In the Center God province, he was the one with the highest attainment in Sword Dao. He was also one of the top powerhouses in the Center Continent. Stop looking. The Great Heaven Divine Emperor's cultivation has reached Universe Heaven Realm Level 8. No one in the Center God province can defeat him. Even if I were to fight him, I would have to fight him. In his heart, Di Guanlong was already a dead man. However, he was very curious as to who stood behind Di Guanlong. According to his understanding, there was definitely an expert behind Di Guanlong. The Great Heaven Divine Emperor probably thought so too. Otherwise, he wouldn't have caused such a commotion. Universe Heaven Level 8. Shi Xinzong muttered to himself, his voice filled with yearning. His cultivation had already reached early void extreme immortal thanks to the Heavenly Saint's Tao lectures. He remembered witnessing Zhou Xuanji's breakthrough in the preaching hall. Sword Sovereign Gu said that Zhou Xuanji had already reached Universe Heaven Level 1. The gap between the two grew bigger and bigger. But he was not discouraged. Instead, he was filled with fighting spirit. Many powerful cultivators who shook the Center God province gathered near the God platform. All the major factions had sent people over. They had to give face to the Great Heaven Divine Emperor. At the same time, they saw something fishy. The Great Heaven Divine Emperor wanted to kill Di Guanlong. There must be a deeper reason behind it. Tens of thousands of soldiers with powerful auras circled above the God platform to prevent anyone from entering. Time passed minute by minute. The scorching sun hung high above their heads, and the Great Heaven Divine Emperor descended suddenly. He wore a majestic golden dragon emperor robe and a crown on his head. His expression was indifferent, and a domineering aura could be sensed from between his brows. Another person followed behind him. This person had a handsome face and was dressed luxuriously in a golden robe. Every move he made was filled with arrogance. Emperor Jundao, a first-class great emperor. His ranking on the Great Emperor Steel was even higher than Zhou Xuanji's. The two landed on the God platform. Armored generals appeared one after another and knelt in a line. The Great Heaven Divine Emperor looked at Di Guanlong and said loudly, "Di Guanlong trampled on the dignity of the God dynasty. Today, his head will strengthen the God dynasty's prestige. His blood will strengthen the God dynasty's domineering aura. At the same time, we will auction Di Guanlong's corpse. Anyone who is interested in the Tao of puppets can bid for it. Boom! The crowd around the god platform was in an uproar, killing people and selling corpses. The great Heaven Divine Emperor was too vicious. Emperor Jundao raised his chin. Hearing the uproar around him, he did not care at all. He hated Di Guanlong to the core, because he lost Di Guanlong too miserably. Clang! The great Heaven Divine Emperor drew his sword and was prepared to behead Di Guanlong himself. This silenced the discussion. Was Di Guanlong really going to die here? With me here, who dares to kill Di Guanlong? At this moment, a voice resounded across the heavens and the earth. Everyone turned around in shock. They saw Zhou Xuanji walking over with the 9-moon execution sword in his hand. Jiang Shui sat on the sword net formed by the 5 legendary swords and followed closely behind him. Zhou Xuanji. Shi Shinzong opened his eyes wide. He did not expect Zhou Xuanji to appear at this moment. It didn't make sense. How come he had never heard of Zhou Xuanji being related to Di Guanlong? He suddenly remembered that when he returned to the Divine Cliff with Zhou Xuanji, they met Di Guanlong and an old beggar. That old beggar wanted to take Zhou Xuanji as his disciple. Could it be? He frowned. With his understanding of Zhou Xuanji, he would not take Zhou Xuanji as his master so easily. Who was that old beggar? I can't see through him. Sword Sovereign Gu cried out in shock, looking confused. Could it be that Zhou Xuanji had some secret treasure that hid his cultivation? At the same time, the great Heaven Divine Emperor frowned too. He could not see through Zhou Xuanji either. Sword Emperor Zhou Xuanji. He's Zhou Xuanji? That's right. It's him. I saw him at the Heavenly Saint Dojo. Back then, his breakthrough was extremely shocking, and everyone was watching. So he's Zhou Xuanji. Such a powerful aura. Is he really only 200 years old? Why do I feel that his aura is not any weaker than the great Heaven Divine Emperor? Why did he come to save Di Guanlong? Everyone cried out in shock and discussed among themselves. No one expected Zhou Xuanji to come. After all, Zhou Xuanji was not related to Di Guanlong at all. The great Heaven Divine Emperor looked at Zhou Xuanji and said, "Sword Emperor, what do you mean by this?" His tone was unpleasant and contained a hint of threat. Zhou Xuanji was not afraid of him at all. After the war between the two worlds, he had been reborn, including his temperament. If I want him to live, he must live. No one can stop me. If you don't understand, then ask the sword in my hand, Zhou Xuanji said with a cold smile as he walked toward the great Heaven Divine Emperor. Chapter 5:27. Ask the sword in my hand. Whoosh! The sea of people around the spirit platform was shocked by Zhou Xuanji's prowess. Zhou Xuanji was the publicly acknowledged genius of the Center God province and the Sword Emperor recognized by the heavenly law. He was powerful indeed, but compared to the great Heaven Divine Emperor, he was still young. They were not existences of the same generation. The great Heaven God Emperor laughed out of anger. He pointed his sword at Zhou Xuanji and said, "Zhou Xuanji, you are really arrogant. You think you can do whatever you want just because you became the Sword Emperor?" At the Heavenly Saint Dojo, he was there too and witnessed Zhou Xuanji breaking through to Universe Heaven Level 1. But it was only one level. Beside him, Emperor Jundao also looked at Zhou Xuanji unkindly. Among those in the same generation, he was often compared to Zhou Xuanji. When he had appeared out of nowhere, he had once suppressed Zhou Xuanji's fame. It was a pity that Zhou Xuanji was too powerful and quickly left him behind. Looking at Zhou Xuanji now, Emperor Jundao's gaze was naturally unfriendly. Zhou Xuanji flew above the god platform and looked down at the great Heaven God Emperor. "I don't like to talk nonsense." After speaking, he used all things returned to origin and sucked Di Guanlong over. The great Heaven Divine Emperor was furious. How dare they snatch someone from under his nose? He immediately reached out and pressed down on Di Guanlong's shoulder. Sword light flashed. Pucci! The great Heaven God Emperor's right arm was chopped off, and Di Guanlong flew toward Zhou Xuanji. Everyone widened their eyes in disbelief. They did not even see Zhou Xuanji attack, and the great heaven god Emperor lost an arm? This was also, Emperor Jundao also wanted to attack, but he suddenly met Zhou Xuanji's gaze. In an instant, his entire body was frozen in place. An indescribable fear enveloped his heart, causing his soul to tremble. Emperor's might. He stumbled backward and did not dare to look into Zhou Xuanji's eyes. Soon, Di Guanlong fell into Zhou Xuanji's hands. Jiang Shui also opened her eyes wide on the sword web. She knew about the great heaven god Emperor's position in the center god province, but Zhou Xuanji had the upper hand. No wonder he wasn't afraid of Zhao Kanglin's threat. Jiang Shui's eyes lit up as she thought curiously. What had happened in the war between the two worlds? How strong was Xuanji now? Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the great heaven divine emperor was both shocked and furious that he was injured. Seeing that Zhou Xuanji was about to leave, he cried out loudly, "Did this emperor allow you to leave? If they let Zhou Xuanji leave today, the great heaven god dynasty would lose all face." Zhou Xuanji looked back at him and said coldly, "Do you want to die?" Facing his gaze, the great heaven divine emperor's heart thumped wildly as a chill filled his heart. He wanted to make a move, but his instincts told him that the other party was very dangerous. If he were to make a move, he would most likely lose. Seeing how powerful Zhou Xuanji was, the spectators all held their breaths and did not even dare to breathe too loudly. Within the building, Shi Shenzong's expression was complicated. Was Zhou Xuanji already this powerful? Sword Sovereign Gu, who was behind him, stared at Zhou Xuanji and remained silent. His cultivation has surpassed Universe Heaven Level 8. How is this possible? How many years has it been? Cold sweat covered Sword Sovereign Gu's forehead. He had wanted to find an opportunity to take Zhou Xuanji as his disciple. From the looks of it, the great heaven god emperor hesitated, while Zhou Xuanji left with Di Guanlong and Jiang Shui. Until they disappeared into the horizon, the great heaven god emperor snorted coldly and disappeared. He did not even have the face to welcome the guests. Boom! Everyone was excited. Zhou Xuanji's sword strike scared the great heaven god emperor so much that he did not dare to make a move. It was evident that Zhou Xuanji was more powerful than the great heaven god emperor, and not just by a little. How powerful is he? More powerful than the great heaven god emperor. Is Zhou Xuanji the most powerful cultivator in the Center God Province? In the Center God Province, can you find someone more powerful than the great heaven god emperor? This is a legend, a myth. He became most powerful cultivator in the Center God Province at just 200 years old. So domineering. Hearing these voices, Emperor Jundao wanted to dig a hole and hide in it. He understood that from now on, he was not even qualified to be mentioned in the same breath as Zhou Xuanji. He hated Zhou Xuanji in his heart, but when he thought of their gazes just now, he was only left with fear. Zhou Xuanji flew swiftly with Jiang Shui and Di Guanlong. He took out the Holy Light Redemption Sword to heal Di Guanlong. Jiang Shui asked excitedly, "Xuanji, what stage are you at now?" Zhou Xuanji smiled, "Universe Heaven Level 10. Having heard that, Jiang Shui opened her eyes wide. She guessed that Zhou Xuanji was at level 4 or 5, but she did not expect him to be at Universe Heaven Level 10. Her surprise soon turned into heartache. The more powerful he was, the more suffering he would have to go through. A while later, Di Guanlong regained consciousness. He looked up and saw Zhou Xuanji and Jiang Shui's backs. "Who are you?" he asked with difficulty. Zhou Xuanji glanced at him and said, "Take good care of yourself." If not for the fact that they were fellow disciples, he would not have saved Di Guanlong. He really wanted to know where the old beggar was. Could that guy have been captured by the great Emperor Dao Court? Just when Di Guanlong wanted to speak, a heavy sense of drowsiness overwhelmed him, and he closed his eyes immediately. Sometime later, he finally woke up. He was shocked to find himself lying in a cave with a letter on his chest. He opened it and saw the following words: "The one who saved you is the Sword Emperor, Zhou Xuanji. No need to thank me." he fell into silence. He already knew that Zhou Xuanji had become his junior brother, but he did not expect this brat to save him. Could it be that his revered teacher helped him as well? Zhou Xuanji and Jiang Shui continued their sightseeing tour. He did not take the battle with Zhao Kanglin to heart. Even if he could not activate the Divine Moon State, he still had Demon God Tianwu as his trump card. Jiang Shui saw that he was full of confidence and did not mention it again. Zhou Xuanji continued to preach to Jiang Shui and even enlightened her occasionally. Within 5 years, Jiang Shui became a ninth tribulation scattered immortal. This was the power of a powerhouse. On the other side, on the 33rd heaven, old ancestor Hongshi came looking for him suddenly. After entering Still Thought Temple, he immediately found Sage Dao Jing and saw Zhao Kanglin. "Why are you here?" Old ancestor Hongshi asked with a frown. Zhao Kanglin's expression was unnatural and did not know how to answer. Sage Dao Jing said, "He wants to take revenge on Zhou Xuanji. I asked him to wait for a while before I let him battle with Zhou Xuanji." Old ancestor Hongshi was astonished and asked, "You are willing to abandon Zhou Xuanji? Then give him to me." After that, he stared at Zhao Kanglin, and Zhao Kanglin dared not to speak even though he was furious. "I plan to nurture him into the next heavenly saint. I have decided to head into the void and search for an opportunity to surpass the saint." Sage Dao Jing continued to speak with a calm look in his eyes. He did not mention his deal with Zhao Kanglin at all. Old ancestor Hongshi frowned and sat down in front of Sage Dao Jing. He said with a deep voice, "You must consider this carefully. If you really want to give up your cultivation, you might be pursuing a path of no return." Most heavenly saints did not believe in the legend of surpassing the saint. In their eyes, the heavenly law was the highest. Everything could not escape the control of the heavenly law. Chapter 528. That's right. What's the point of being a heavenly saint? Sage Dao Jing stared at old ancestor Hongshi and said, "After becoming a heavenly saint, nothing in the myriad worlds piqued their interest. There was no need to cultivate because no matter how powerful they were still beneath the heavenly law. They arranged for the war between the two worlds to have fun. However, after each war, Sage Dao Jing realized that his interest in the war was diminishing. Now that he had the opportunity to surpass the heavenly saint, how could he give it up?" Old ancestor Hongshi was silent. His mood was at rock bottom. All living beings in the myriad worlds admired the heavenly saints, but who could understand the dullness of a heavenly saint? Zhao Kanglin listened and cursed in his heart. "You don't want to be a heavenly saint. Can you give me the position? Please, don't be so pretentious." "Forget it. Up to you. I called you here because I have something to discuss. Since you are leaving, come with me to deal with someone before you leave." Old ancestor Hongshi waved his hand. Zhao Kanglin was curious. Which heavenly saint did he want to deal with? Only the heavenly saints needed to work together. Sage Dao Jing stood up and glanced at Zhao Kanglin. "Don't do anything before I return. Once you break through the restrictions of the 33rd heaven, I will use a peerless divine ability to kill you. You won't have time to take revenge." Zhao Kanglin nodded lightly. He did not want to take revenge a few years in advance. A few years was not a big deal anyway. After that, Sage Dao Jing and old ancestor Hongshi left. Still Thought Temple fell into silence again. When Zhou Xuanji and Jiang Shui returned to the Divine Cliff, Jiang Shui was not pregnant with a second child. The difference in their cultivation was too great. There was a formless energy separating them. Zhou Xuanji guessed that it was the power of the heavenly law. Since it did not work, he did not force it. That day, Yang Yuqian came to visit him personally. He seemed very excited. After the battle at the spirit platform, Zhou Xuanji's fame grew again. More and more living beings thought that he was the most powerful cultivator in the Center God province. The Divine Cliff's reputation grew because of this. More living beings came to seek the Tao, and more powerful beings befriended them. After the small talk, Zhou Xuanji began to teach Zhou Xiaoxian. Zhou Xiaoxuan's talent was not bad, and she was even more powerful than the 10,000-year prince. Ever since she knew that Zhou Xuanji had forcefully scared off the great heaven god emperor, she had been pestering him. Zhou Xuanji did not have high expectations for his daughter, but since she wanted to become more powerful, he would not stop her. The father and daughter came to the forest where Zhou Xuanji cultivated before and began to cultivate diligently. Zhou Xuanji imparted the sword soul to her. This girl's comprehension was also very high, and she quickly learned it. However, her sword soul was still very weak, and it could not even compare to Shi Shinzong's in the mortal world. Time flew by. 10 years had passed. Everything was peaceful, until Zhao Kanglin's voice resounded throughout the Center God province and the nearby states. Zhou Xuanji, go up to the 33rd heaven and fight me to the death. Zhao Kanglin's cold voice caused an uproar in the world. 33 heavens? Wasn't that the dojo of the heavenly saint? Who dared to challenge Zhou Xuanji in the heavenly saint's territory? In the forest. Father, who is he? Zhou Shaoxian asked nervously. Zhou Xuanji replied calmly. A guy called Zhao Kanglin. He had no choice but to kill his son. He came to me for revenge. You continue to cultivate. I will be back soon. Then, he flew up and prepared to fly to the 33 levels of heaven. Father, Zhou Shaoxian stopped him immediately. Zhou Xuanji looked down at her and asked, "What's wrong?" Looking at his lofty and calm demeanor, all the worries in Zhou Shaoxuan's heart dissipated. She smiled like a flower and waved her sword, saying, "Come back quickly. You must teach me how to form multiple sword souls." Zhou Xuanji smiled. He transformed into a stream of sword light and soared into the clouds, disappearing in an instant. Above the 33rd heaven, Zhao Kanglin stood under the starry sky with his arms crossed in front of his chest, waiting quietly. A row of people stood in front of the gate of Still Thought Temple. They were the powerhouses who were cultivating in Still Thought Temple. They came from various states in Wanshan Great Thousand, connecting Heaven Stage 1. Powerful indeed. The heavenly saint really left? Interesting. It seems like Wanshan Great Thousand is going to face chaos again. Let's watch this show first. We will fight for the world in the future. Hee, you don't want the world but the position of saint, right? These powerhouses discussed and did not take Zhao Kanglin seriously at all. Connecting Heaven Stage 1 was powerful indeed, but it was not invincible below the heavenly saint. Soon, a stream of sword light flew up and reached Zhao Kanglin's height. It was Zhou Xuanji. The two of them were hundreds of meters apart, facing each other in the air. Zhao Kanglin was sizing Zhou Xuanji up, and Zhou Xuanji was sizing him up too. Universe Heaven Level 10. How did this brat kill his son? Zhao Kanglin frowned. Could it be that Sage Daojing was involved in the war between the two worlds? Zhou Xuanji took out the 9-moon execution sword and the cultivation-absorbing demon sealer. The power of the two disaster-releasing legendary swords exploded into his body, and his aura grew tremendously. The 9 divine moons appeared behind him majestically. I see. You have 2 ultimate treasures, Zhao Kanglin said as he thought about it. He raised his right hand, and an axe covered in blood patterns appeared in his hand. Strands of black chi appeared out of nowhere and wrapped around the blood-patterned axe. It was horrifying. He and Zhou Xuanji moved almost at the same time. Boom! The 2 horrifying powers clashed with each other. Zhao Kanglin unleashed his full power and sent Zhou Xuanji flying with his axe. In that instant, Zhou Xuanji felt that his hands were about to split open. He noticed that there were many spectators in front of Still Thought Temple. He immediately used the 8-step sword lunge and teleported out of the 33 levels of heaven and into the void. The 33 levels of heaven was the outermost part of Wanshan Great Thousand. Any higher, and he would leave Wanshan Great Thousand and arrive at the vast starry sky. It looked beautiful, but it was actually filled with countless murderous intents. This was the void. Zhao Kanglin was filled with murderous intent. How could he let Zhou Xuanji go? He chased after him. The powerhouses in front of Still Thought Temple shook their heads and left. Universe Heaven Level 10. This brat really overestimates himself. His sword is not bad. Forget it. I'll give Zhao Kanglin some face. Get ready. The chaotic period of Wanshin Great Thousand is coming again. Can this still-thought temple belong to me? If Sage Daojing comes back, you will be dead. These powerhouses have been cultivating in still-thought temple for countless years. Sage Daojing had escaped deep into the void. Once Sage Daojing died, they would have the hope of becoming saints. So they prepared to return and rest to prepare for the upcoming period of contention for saints. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji and Zhao Kanglin were fighting intensely in the void. He activated the Emperor's Wei Thousand-Hand Sword Buddha. The Sword Buddha was 50,000 meters tall, and 1,000 swords slashed wildly with unparalleled ferocity. Zhao Kanglin used his divine physique ability and grew to 10,000 meters tall. His body was covered with blood-patterned patterns and was enveloped by a world-destroying black chi. He swung his blood-patterned axe like a demon god. Boom! 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 Zhou Xuanji was pushed back continuously. He purposely distanced himself from Wanshin Great Thousand. He did not want others to see demon god Tianwu. It was best to keep it as a trump card to catch the enemy off guard. Chapter 529. Xiao! Xiao! Zhou Xuanji and Zhao Kanglin dashed across the starry sky one after the other, one chasing the other. Zhou Xuanji, where are you going? Zhao Kanglin said coldly. He still did not know about Zhou Xuanji's scheme. The difference in cultivation between the two of them was too great. If it was him, he would probably flee as well. Zhou Xuanji suddenly stopped, and the thousand-hand sword Buddha dissipated into countless golden stars. He condensed 9 sword souls and took out all of his legendary swords to unleash Sword Sect Immortal Ghost Weep. He turned and charged at Zhao Kanglin. Zhao Kanglin transformed into his original size and swung his axe wildly. Numerous chains formed from axe chi charged toward Zhou Xuanji. Ding! 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 The high-speed spinning divine sword collided with the iron chain, but it could not stop the iron chain from approaching. The 9 sword souls slashed out and cut the iron chains. Zhao Kanglin suddenly appeared beside Zhou Xuanji and swung his axe at his neck. What incredible speed! Zhou Xuanji was shocked in his heart. The 9 divine moons around him slammed into him. With a loud boom, Zhou Xuanji was blasted away, while Zhao Kanglin was engulfed by the powerful light. Zhou Xuanji, is this all you can do? How did you kill my son? Zhao Kanglin laughed wildly. His words were filled with killing intent. After that, he dashed out from the powerful light with extreme speed. He wanted to kill Zhou Xuanji with his axe. At this moment, an imposing figure suddenly appeared in front of Zhou Xuanji. He punched forward, and Zhao Kanglin could not dodge in time. Boom! His body was almost blasted apart. His entire body was covered in blood, and he turned into a sharp arrow that disappeared into the depths of the starry sky. Demon god Tianwu. At this moment, he was no longer a dried-up corpse. The muscles on his upper body were exaggerated, and his strength was explosive. There was an iron ring around his waist, and he looked sinister and mighty. The 4 wings on his back fluttered slightly, and they were even larger than his body. His head of white hair danced wildly in the wind. Standing in front of Zhou Xuanji, his body vividly displayed the aura of a demon god. Zhou Xuanji moved his mind, and demon god Tianwu locked on his Zhao Kanglin's aura and charged toward him. Zhao Kanglin, who had steadied himself, kept coughing up blood. He murmured in fear, "What was that?" After being punched by demon god Tianwu, his body was on the verge of exploding and his soul was on the verge of dispersing. With a flip of his hand, he took out a golden pill and quickly threw it into his mouth. A powerful gust of wind whistled past, sweeping through everything in its path, causing the stars in its path to shake violently. The Heavenly Wu demon god's sudden attack scared Zhao Kanglin so much that his facial expression changed drastically. With no time to dodge, he could only hurriedly slash forward. The blood vein axe chopped down on demon god Tianwu's right fist, but the blade of the axe was unable to cut through his flesh. How could this be? Zhao Kanglin was scared out of his wits. Then, demon god Tianwu's fist landed on him. Boom! His physical body exploded, leaving only his primordial spirit to escape. As he distanced himself from demon god Tianwu, he looked over in horror. He suddenly felt that the demon god Tianwu was somewhat familiar. Wait a minute. Wasn't this the corpse of a demon god that he had seen in the Abyss Pearl mainland? What was going on? He came back to life. Zhao Kanglin was horrified. He realized that demon god Tianwu had turned around to look at him. Those eyes were dead and empty, but they gave him a great sense of oppression. Roar! Demon god Tianwu suddenly roared at Zhao Kanglin. His voice shook the starry sky, and Zhao Kanglin's primordial spirit was instantly destroyed. Connecting Heaven Stage 1 was extremely weak before the 10 demon gods. Far away, Zhou Xuanji's ears were ringing from the deafening roar. He quickly called for demon god Tianwu to return. This guy had caused such a huge commotion. He had to leave immediately to avoid unnecessary trouble. After storing demon god Tianwu into the Tianxia map, he flew toward Wanshan Great Thousand. He traveled at full speed without any delay. Soon, he realized that something was wrong. He could not find a way back to Wanshan Great Thousand. *T. Cold sweat covered Zhou Xuanji's forehead. He looked a little flustered. Could this be the terror of the void? Even someone at his cultivation stage could get lost unknowingly? After a while, he finally saw Wanshan Great Thousand. He heaved a sigh of relief. Looking from afar, Wanshan Great Thousand was covered in radiance. It was more dazzling than the sun, and it was very similar to Zhenggan Great Thousand. Zhou Xuanji dived into the radiance and passed through the heavenly barrier. He came to the 33rd heaven, but did not see Still Thought Temple. He raised his brow slightly and charged downward. After passing through all the heavens, he saw the ground. It was nighttime with endless barren mountains. It seemed that he had come to another province. No wonder he did not see Still Thought Temple earlier. The 33rd heaven was vast, and Still Thought Temple faced the Center God province. Of course, before Sage Daojing left, the entire 33rd heaven belonged to him, and no one dared to offend him. Zhou Xuanji found a random place and began to recuperate his qi and blood. With his cultivation, it was not difficult for him to return to the Center God province. There were no powerful enemies in the Center God province anyway, so he was not in a hurry to return. He sat on the peak and faced the bright moon to extract heavenly law celestial energy. The ancient god sword landed beside him. The 9 souls were amazed at how powerful demon god Tianwu was. Zhou Xuanji conversed with the sword spirit. He was asking how to revive the 9 souls. The 9 souls had helped him a lot, so he had to repay them in the future. You can just split their souls, separate their consciousness from the sword, and leave their soul energy in the ancient god sword. This way, the ancient god sword will not be weakened, and they can be revived, the sword spirit replied. The sword spirit replied, and Zhou Xuanji heard him. So simple. After splitting their souls, they could choose to possess another body or reincarnate. After that, he asked the 9 souls who wanted to be revived. Emperor Zhao, Saber Monarch Donghai, Emperor Songhai, Ghost Emperor Zhang Tian, and Lu Wuji all wanted to be revived. Emperor Hanlin, Sovereign Xian, Dao Lord Xiantian, and Demon Lord Ryuan fell into silence. Some of them died for special reasons and did not want to be revived for now. Zhou Xuanji thought for a while and decided to revive Lu Wuji first. He asked the sword spirit to help Lu Wuji split his soul. A while later, Lu Wuji's soul appeared before him. I can really be revived. Lu Wuji looked at his hands and mumbled to himself. Zhou Xuanji smiled and asked, "Do you want to reincarnate or possess another body?" Lu Wuji looked up at him, and the corners of his mouth curled up. "There's no need for that. I've long since left behind a backup plan. Not long after I ascended, I created an avatar for him to roam the other provinces alone, just in case something like this happens again. After all these years, his cultivation might even be higher than yours." Zhou Xuanji was stunned. "So cunning. If you're in danger, I will come back to help you. Take care. After saying this, Lu Wuji turned into a stream of light and flew toward the horizon. Seeing how anxious he was, Zhou Xuanji could not help but shake his head. Was this guy not afraid of encountering danger on the way? Emperor Zhao was still complaining that he wanted to be revived. Zhou Xuanji replied, "Reviving them consumed a lot of energy, so he split his soul." Emperor Zhao was not dissatisfied with this and was still very excited. He finally had a chance to reappear in the human world. The next day, Zhou Xuanji sheathed his swords and set off at dawn. He was prepared to go to a nearby city and ask around to find out where he was. He planned to expose his whereabouts. After leaving the Center God province, the great Emperor Dao court would definitely come to find trouble with him. When that time came, he would settle the score with them one by one. Back then, the great Emperor Dao court and the demonic emperor had been so against him. If he did not get rid of all of them, his surname would not be Jian. Chapter 530. In the void, a silhouette appeared. It was impossible to tell who it was. He looked around and mumbled, "Demon God's aura. Could it be the demon ancestor? He dares to come to the void?" Shortly after, he turned into countless beams of light and flew in all directions, disappearing quickly. Not long after he left, a few silhouettes came. They were all attracted by the demon God's aura. On the other side, the demon realm, in a dark palace, the demon ancestor was cultivating. He opened his eyes suddenly. His blood-red eyes beamed coldly. Tian Wu's aura. Didn't he die? Seems like someone has taken control of his body. The demon ancestor mumbled to himself with a mocking smile. Tian Wu was stubborn back then. Even in death, he cannot rest in peace. This is retribution. After laughing for a while, he sighed. He was the only one left of the 10 demon gods. The world had changed, and the demons were no longer demons. In an inn, Zhou Xuanji sat before the window and drank. A storyteller stood at the center of the first floor, smoking a pipe and telling a story. Back then, after Di Wanxin destroyed the demon gods, he sacrificed himself to protect the ruined world. He transformed himself into the world, which created the Wanxin Great Thousand today. He left behind a bloodline called the Di clan. Countless years have passed, and the Di clan no longer exists. But now, there are many beings with the surname Di. The storyteller sighed, and the diners sighed in amazement. Although the story sounded absurd, they still yearned for Di Wanxin's story. He fought against the 10 demon gods alone and transformed himself into the world. He lived up to his name as the creation god of the Wanxin Great Thousand. Zhou Xuanji listened to Di Wanxin's story and shook his head. The 10 demon gods were so powerful. Could someone really fight against them and the entire demon race alone? This was how legends came about. They were constantly exaggerated, and even a pig could become a martial Tiansong. Just when he was about to leave, someone walked toward him. He glanced over and instantly laughed. His laughter was extremely cold. It was malicious Buddha. This guy was really powerful. He had only appeared in this empire for less than 10 days, and he already found him. Malicious Buddha sat opposite Zhou Xuanji and poured himself some wine. "Long time no see," he said with a smile. His smile was also very cold, giving people the feeling of a venomous snake. "Where's the demonic emperor? Before I ascended, I thought he was very strong. Who would have thought that he still hasn't appeared?" Zhou Xuanji asked. In his eyes, malicious Buddha was already a dead person. He had to avenge Han Shuzi, Taichu Yudao, and the Divine Cliff. Malicious Buddha sighed and said, "I also want to know. Ever since you escaped, that guy also disappeared." Zhou Xuanji continued to ask, "What about Xiandaoya? I'm going to choose a genius like you." "Then why are you looking for me?" "Of course it's to capture you. Of course, if you and I can bury the hatchet, we can also be friends." The two of them exchanged questions and answers, which made Zhou Xuanji laugh again. He picked up the wine pot and said, "After drinking this pot of wine, let's find a place to fight to the death." Malicious Buddha nodded. He did not know about Zhao Kanglin challenging Zhou Xuanji. After all, This place was far away from the center god province. Universe Heaven Level 10. This brat's growth rate was too terrifying. He had to be eliminated. The malicious Buddha thought as he drank. The genius he chose was no longer a match for Zhou Xuanji. He had miscalculated and wasted so much effort. After that, the two of them remained silent. They drank slowly and leisurely. After they finished drinking, the two left one after another. Malicious Buddha walked in front, and Zhou Xuanji followed closely behind. On the street, the two of them disappeared into thin air. They flew swiftly and left the empire, coming to an uninhabited wasteland. Malicious Buddha turned to look at Zhou Xuanji and laughed coldly. Your cultivation has already soared to Universe Heaven Level 10. That's not easy, but do you know how high my cultivation is? Murderous intent locked onto Zhou Xuanji from all directions. How many levels? Zhou Xuanji asked calmly. Malicious Buddha was powerful indeed. The sense of danger he felt was similar to Zhao Kanglin's. How many levels? What a joke. I've already surpassed Universe Heaven and reached Connecting Heaven Level 2. Do you know about Connecting Heaven? Malicious Buddha laughed viciously. As he spoke, he walked toward Zhou Xuanji. This brat must die. Connecting Heaven Level 2? So what? Zhou Xuanji snorted coldly. Seeing how arrogant Malicious Buddha was, he felt great in his heart. Continue acting. You're going to kneel soon. Malicious Buddha took out a golden whip with lightning intertwining on it. Even at this point, you're still pretending to be calm. Do you think the heavenly saint will protect you? He has already left Wanshan Great Thousand, and your senior and junior brothers are not nearby. I'm very sensitive to auras. Although he said so, he was still a little cautious. With Zhou Xuanji's talent and arrogance, it was not luck that he could survive until now. This brat always hid his trump card to deal a fatal blow to his enemies. Zhou Xuanji smiled with extreme disdain. He brought demon god Tianwu out from the Tianxia map straight away. The horrifying demon god's body rippled the space around it. Seeing demon god Tianwu, Malicious Buddha's expression changed. Today, I will make you pay with your blood, Zhou Xuanji said coldly. Zhou Xuanji said coldly. Before the Malicious Buddha could speak, demon god Tianwu quickly rushed out. Boom! Malicious Buddha's eyes flashed, and demon god Tianwu was right in front of him. He quickly activated his divine ability, and a golden bell shadow came out from his body. Demon god Tianwu did not use any fancy divine abilities. It was just a punch. Clang! The golden bell shattered, and Malicious Buddha fell as he vomited blood from the punch. His body was like a meteorite that pierced through the ground, causing the ground within a radius of 10,000 miles to crumble. Demon god Tianwu fell as well, and its feet stepped into the ruins. He reached down and scooped up Malicious Buddha. The entire process happened so quickly that ordinary people could not even blink. Malicious Buddha struggled with all his might and cried out in shock. Demon god Tianwu, how can it be? How can you have his corpse and even turned him into a clone? In the next second, demon god Tianwu squeezed his body until it exploded. How horrifying was the power of a body that was invincible below the heavenly saint. Even Connecting Heaven Stage 2 could not withstand it. Demon god Tianwu continued to use his magic energy to crush Malicious Buddha's soul. The battle ended just as quickly as it came. Zhou Xuanji recalled demon god Tianwu and left quickly. Killing the Malicious Buddha made him very happy. So satisfying. Demon god Tianwu's power made his blood boil. He became even more determined. He was going to walk the path of an overlord saint. One day, he would reach the height of killing a heavenly saint with one slash. Not long after he left, Xian Daoya suddenly appeared in the ruins. He frowned and mumbled, Malicious Buddha's aura and Zhou Xuanji. Who's the other aura? So horrifying. He immediately tracked Zhou Xuanji's aura with his mind. 6 hours later, Zhou Xuanji stopped to rest under an old tree. He had already sensed Xian Daoya's aura, but he pretended to be in a bad state. Xiandeoya came out from the ground and looked at Zhou Xuanji with a complicated expression. Why did you leave the Sinner God province? Don't you know that you are in danger? Zhou Xuanji pretended to be moved. He frowned and said with gritted teeth, Why are you here? Are you following the malicious Buddha? Chapter 531. The sky was high and wide, and the cold wind was rustling. Xianlia looked at Zhou Xuanji, who was under the old tree, and replied calmly, That's right. Because of him, I lost you, so I want to take revenge. Tell me, where is he? Zhou Xuanji's expression flickered as he said, He's dead. The person who killed him was very powerful, and even I can't see his face clearly. It should be a demonic cultivator. That demonic chi was too powerful, and it was definitely the most powerful demonic cultivator I've seen in my life. The reason he was acting with Xiandeoya was because he wanted to obtain information about the great Emperor Dao Court. Xiandeoya frowned. After some thought, he walked toward Zhou Xuanji. Put on a show until the end. Zhou Xuanji took out the 9-moon execution sword and prepared to fight. Xiandeoya said faintly, In actuality, you really don't have to face me like this. If I wanted to kill you, you would have died long ago. Come with me and join the great Emperor Dao Court. Even though you disobeyed the great Emperor Dao Court, your talent can make up for it. Universe Heaven Level 10. This kid was really surprising. After Xiandeoya saw through Zhou Xuanji's cultivation, he felt even more complicated. Zhou Xuanji asked in a low voice, If I don't join, do I have to die? His forehead was covered in cold sweat, as if he had just experienced a great battle. In reality, it was all an act. Xiandeoya nodded and said, The great Emperor Dao Court has already given a death order, and I was punished because of it. Trust me, offending the great Emperor Dao Court will not end well, and joining them will instead bring you great fortuitous opportunities. With Sage Daojing gone, the battle for the divine throne will most likely start again. Only by joining the great Emperor Dao Court will you be able to quickly grow. He tried his best to persuade Zhou Xuanji, as if he was really thinking for Zhou Xuanji. In fact, both sides were acting. Zhou Xuanji let out a long sigh and asked, How powerful is the great Emperor Dao Court's most powerful being? Xiandeoya stopped 5 meters in front of him and said, He's very strong, but I don't know exactly how strong he is. Anyway, he has a great background. If I say his name, all the great 1,000 worlds will be shocked. Zhou Xuanji frowned. He could shake the great 1,000 world just by saying his name? It seemed that he had underestimated the great Emperor Dao Court. Seeing that he was still hesitating, Xiandeoya continued, The demonic emperor has possessed the corpse of one of the 10 ancient demonic gods. Soon, he will descend upon the Wanshan Great Thousand. At that time, with his personality, he will definitely massacre the Wanshan Great Thousand. And you, he has his eyes on you. The 10 great demon gods. Zhou Xuanji's heart beat wildly, and he immediately felt the pressure. He had already experienced the might of a fiend celestial. However, his demon god Tianwu was just an unconscious clone. Against the demonic emperor who had possessed the body of a demon god, there was definitely a huge difference in strength. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, Sorry, I still don't want to join the great Emperor Dao Court. Please leave. With your current strength, you can't invite me. Xiandeoya was only a soul, and by how Isin had said that he was very weak. However, when facing the malicious Buddha, this fellow could still hold him back for a period of time. His combat power was unpredictable. Zhou Xuanji wanted to test his power. He activated the power of the divine moon and pointed his sword at Xiandeoya. Xiandeoya was not surprised. With his understanding of Zhou Xuanji, it would be strange if this brat obeyed. He sighed, Actually, I don't want to attack you. Since you were so stubborn, then don't blame me for being impolite. Zhou Xuanji laughed condescendingly. Old thing, the price of being impolite was death. Seeing his smile, Xiandeoya felt uneasy. Boom! At this moment, the ground shook violently. The wasteland cracked, revealing numerous bottomless canyons. as though a massive earthquake was happening. Xiandaoya's expression changed slightly. Oh no, a connecting heaven cultivator is attacking. After that, he turned into a puff of dust and dissipated. Zhou Xuanji used the 8-step sword lunge and quickly escaped from this place. Although he had already killed 2 connecting heaven cultivators, it was because of demon god Tianwu. Moreover, connecting heaven was divided into 10 stages. Only God knew which stage his opponent was at. Zhou Xuanji traveled ahead at full speed, crossing over mountains and ridges. Half an hour later, he stopped in a forest and said slowly, "Who are you? Why are you not coming out?" The other party had been chasing him relentlessly. He could have caught him, but he did not do so. It was as though he was toying with him, playing a game of cat and mouse. A breeze blew, and the leaves under a tree rose. Next, a tall figure appeared. A great demon. He had a head of green hair, and his body was covered in tiny scales like a snake. He wore black armor, and his eyes were pitch black. His pupils were red, and they were as small as 2 red beans. The lower half of his body was surrounded by black demonic chi, and there were faint roars of ferocious beasts. He stared at Zhou Xuanji and asked, "You are Sword Emperor Zhou Xuanji?" Zhou Xuanji stared at him and asked back, "You already have the answer in your heart. Why do you ask?" Xiandaoya suddenly appeared on the tree behind Zhou Xuanji. "Snake Lord Qingshi," he said with gritted teeth with a dark expression, "your demon race wants to snatch someone from the great Emperor Dao court?" Snake Lord Qingshi. Zhou Xuanji squinted his eyes. The person ranked 5th on the great Emperor's steel. Ever since he learned about connecting heaven, why did he encounter connecting heaven cultivators one after another? Snake Lord Qingshi said coldly, "The great Emperor Dao court is merely a scoundrel. How dare you threaten the demon race? Xiandaoya, if you don't get lost, I will eat your soul." Xiandaoya was enraged, but he could sense that Snake Lord Qingshi was serious. After some hesitation, he chose to leave and disappeared from the tree. Zhou Xuanji was speechless. "You are such a coward, and you still want to show off?" Snake Lord Qingshi looked at Zhou Xuanji and said, "Sword Emperor, come with me. If I had ill intentions, I would have done it long ago." Zhou Xuanji asked with a frown, "May I ask why you are looking for me?" "To deal with the demonic emperor," Snake Lord Qingshi replied. Zhou Xuanji heard him and agreed immediately. "The enemy of my enemy is my ally." If Snake Lord Qingshi really wanted to harm him, he still needed demon god Tianwu. Even if he was on the brink of death, he could still use the celestial devil rebirth technique. Snake Lord Qingshi slammed the ground with his palm, and a gate covered in snake scales rose up. The gate was glowing with a green radiance. Zhou Xuanji did not hesitate and stepped into the gate. Snake Lord Qingshi followed closely behind. The snake-scaled gate sunk into the soil as though it was never there. In a vast starry sky, a small island was levitating. There was only one crystal tree on the island, and a man was sitting under the tree. This man looked mighty and domineering. He wore silver armor and a handsome face. He wore a Qilin crown on his head. Even though he was sitting, he gave off a powerful aura. Old ancestor Hongshi's illusory image appeared before him suddenly. Duyishan, the Abyss Pearl mainland, no longer exists. The world that destroyed the Abyss Pearl mainland was located in the center god province of Wanshan Great Thousand. Sage Daojing has left, and Wanshan Great Thousand is about to usher in a chaotic period of fighting to become a saint. Hearing old ancestor Hongshi, Duyishan opened his eyes. There was a war between the 2 worlds? He asked with a frown. Old ancestor Hongshi snorted. "It's not important anymore. I'm asking you if you want to go or not. If you don't, I will give the mission to see Meng Yan." Duyishan heard him and got up slowly. "I will go now," he said. Chapter 532. After passing through the snake-scaled door, Zhou Xuanji's vision blurred. When he opened his eyes again, he was in a forest. The trees around him were very tall, and even the flowers and grass were taller than him. He felt as if he had come to a country of giants. "Follow me." After that, he walked in front of Zhou Xuanji and led the way. Zhou Xuanji asked, "Where is this? Who are we going to meet?" He could feel the demonic aura all around him, varying in strength. "This is the demon realm. I will bring you to the demon emperor to discuss the plan to deal with the demonic emperor." Snake Lord Qingshi replied calmly. There was no hint of coercion in his tone. When he mentioned the demonic emperor and the demonic emperor, his expression did not change. It was as though he was talking about two insignificant people. Demon Emperor? Zhou Xuanji was suddenly interested. He had been to the demon realm, and now he had come to the beast realm. He was very curious. Were the demon realm and the demon realm counted as the boundless world? Or were they part of the boundless world? Along the way, he saw many demons. Some were in human form, and some were not. When they saw Snake Lord Qingshi, they all prostrated themselves on the ground and bowed. After passing through the forest, Snake Lord Qingshi flew into the distance, and Zhou Xuanji followed closely behind him. After some time, they arrived in front of an enormous palace. This palace was dazzling with gold and jade, and the gate was 100 zhang tall. There were two black cheilants lying on the ground, and even though they were lying on the ground, they were still taller than the palace gate. Their eyes were filled with an oppressive feeling. The door suddenly opened, and Zhou Xuanji followed Snake Lord Qingshi in. A violent gale blew from within the palace, and Zhou Xuanji's black hair danced wildly in the wind. He narrowed his eyes and saw a figure looking at him from the depths of the palace. Demon Emperor. He sat on the high platform, wearing a dark purple imperial robe. His red hair was coiled under the black crown of the flood dragon, and two strands of red hair fell down his cheeks. His handsome face was indifferent, and his eyes flickered with evil light. There was a large painting hanging on the wall behind him. On the painting, there was a Qilin-like demon stepping on a phoenix and a golden dragon with a vermilion bird in its mouth. It looked ferocious, and the painting exuded a boundless aura. Other than the demon emperor, there was no one else in the hall. Zhou Xuanji and Snake Lord Qingshi came up to the platform. Snake Lord Qingshi cupped his fists and said, "Your Majesty, Zhou Xuanji has arrived. He encountered Great Emperor Dao Court's Xiandaoya on the way, and I have forced him to retreat." The Beast Emperor nodded calmly. He looked at Zhou Xuanji and said, "The Snake Lord should have told you why I invited you here. Do you want to know why we chose you?" Zhou Xuanji nodded and stared at the Beast Emperor. The Demon Emperor said, "You are from the northern wilderness, which means that you are the descendant of the demonic emperor. You are the strongest person in the northern wilderness region in the past 10,000 years. The demonic emperor can only control people from the northern wilderness who are less than 10,000 years old. With your talent, the demonic emperor must be crazy to obtain you. How much do you know about the demonic emperor?" Zhou Xuanji frowned. Speaking of which, he did not know much about the demonic emperor. They only knew that he was evil and came from the northern wilderness region. He did not understand the demonic emperor. Logically speaking, the demonic emperor should be Lu Wuji's junior, and he was younger than Mo Jiuqing. How could he strike fear into the hearts of people in the Wanxin Great Thousand? The demonic emperor's original body came from the first being when the heavenly law first appeared. He failed in the struggle to become a saint and fell in the cycle of reincarnation. After countless years, he finally awakened in the northern wilderness region. He became even more ruthless than before, and in order to become a saint, he decided to sacrifice all lives and walk the path of an overlord saint. He has already obtained demon god Jin Kuan's corpse and has the most powerful physique below the heavenly saints. He will soon return to the Wanxin Great Thousand. Our beast realm is a vassal of the Wanxin Great Thousand, and if the Wanxin Great Thousand is destroyed, the beast realm will cease to exist. We believe that the demonic emperor will come to find you. We will give you a treasure to use when he comes to find you." The beast emperor looked at Zhou Xuanji and spoke slowly. Zhou Xuanji asked, "What does the demonic emperor want to do with me?" The beast emperor replied, "He will turn you into his slave and have you fight for him in all worlds." He looked at Zhou Xuanji and felt that there was something off about this boy. His eyes widened, and his breathing became ragged as he said, "You fused with the violet demon monarch heart? Isn't that supreme treasure on Wulong? Wait, could it be that the violet demon monarch heart has already been split? Very good. This fellow dares to hide it from us." Towards the end, a murderous look appeared in his eyes. Zhou Xuanji raised his eyebrows and asked, "What's your relationship with Great Emperor Wulong? This fellow couldn't be thinking of stealing his heart, right? Great Emperor Wulong was our subordinate. Without our support, he would have died long ago. He promised that if he split a new violet demon monarch heart, he would definitely give it to us." The Beast Emperor's gaze became colder and colder. It was evident that he was truly angry. He looked at Zhou Xuanji and said, "Don't worry. Since the violet demon monarch heart is already yours, we will not take it by force. This enmity is a private matter between we and Wulong." Zhou Xuanji was a bit doubtful. What if this fellow wanted to take it after defeating the demonic emperor? The Beast Emperor raised his right hand, and a red orb appeared in his palm. There was a ball of intense flames within the orb, and it seemed to contain boundless might. This orb is called the evil-slaying soul orb. When the demonic emperor controls you, he will sacrifice his soul into your body. When the time comes, you can use this orb to heavily injure his soul. When we sense the ripples from the evil-slaying soul orb, we will immediately come to support you and kill the demonic emperor," the Beast Emperor said with a powerful voice. After that, he tossed the evil-slaying soul orb to Zhou Xuanji. After catching the orb, Zhou Xuanji asked hesitantly, "Is it really that easy? If it was so easy, how could the demonic emperor have lived to this day?" The Beast Emperor replied, "This orb only appears once every 1,000,000 years. Using it will heavily injure the user's soul, and those with weak cultivation cannot use it. Out of the northern wilderness people that the demonic emperor found, only you have the right to use it. If it was our subordinate, the demonic emperor would definitely not fall for it. We promise that after this, we will help you nurture your soul and help you become stronger. You can choose any divine ability in the beast realm." Zhou Xuanji almost cursed it out. As expected, nothing good came out of it. "Trying to trick me?" He narrowed his eyes and said, "Looks like I don't have a choice." The Beast Emperor sighed and said, "There's no other way. It's too difficult to defeat the demonic emperor, so we can only rely on you. This is a meritorious deed to save the world. I hope you could trust us." Zhou Xuanji gave a slight smile and said, "Then I'll accept it. Can you help me become stronger first?" The Beast Emperor said, "Of course. Snake Lord, take him to settle down first. We will think of a way to help him become stronger." Snake Lord Qingshi nodded. From the beginning to the end, his expression did not change much. Following this, he brought Zhou Xuanji and left the palace. The man and the demon walked on without saying anything. In the end, Zhou Xuanji stayed in a building. After Snake Lord Qingshi left, Zhou Xuanji took out the ancient god sword and asked about the evil-slaying soul orb. "It's not just heavily injured. It's possible that he'll turn into dust." Sovereign Xian coldly harumphed and said, "As expected, this Beast Emperor is as insidious and cunning as ever. The reason why the beast race is where it is today is because of his insidiousness that he made so many enemies." Beast Lord Rien said, "Let me out. I have enmity with the Beast Emperor to settle. I'll take possession of a body in the beast realm and hide here, waiting for an opportunity to kill him. In the future, as the Lord of the Beast race, I'll definitely help you." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.